Hi Sweaties! Welcome back. How are you doing? What's cooking good looking? Thanks for watching my Peaky Blinders video, part 1. Thank you for watching if you did. We're gonna be talking about the next half of the series, so I hope you enjoy it. I feel like if you're joining in on this video, I'm assuming that you saw the first one or at least you've seen the show. If you haven't, maybe check out the first video or you can just stay here. I don't really care. You're gonna be a little lost, but it's up to you. I ain't gonna tell you what to do. Trigger warnings, and you know all of it. Blood, fighting, killing, sex, robbery, bombs. Actually, are there bombs in this one? I don't know. But anyway, it gets rough and tough. But before we get far into this video at all, I do need to make an apology because in my last video, I didn't realize that I used a certain word that I was not aware that was offensive. So I do apologize. It's my ignorance, my fault completely. I just want to apologize to anybody that was offended by it. From here on out, I will not be using that word. I've learned my lesson. Anyway, let's get the board up here again. I have moved things around. So if you need a refresher, this is the graveyard. I guess I can put my hat on. I wanted to add a character up to the board already. Well, you see him throughout the series. Anytime that he's on screen each season, it seems like he's played by a different actor. So this is not a part of the show, but I feel like he's the best representation. Gary Oldman is Winston Churchill. Sorry, I know. Well, felt like I should print off his picture because we talk about him some, so you could put a face to it. I just wanted to get him up on the board. I don't know. I was printing off pictures and I was like, yeah, why the hell not? We have Winston Churchill, but the Gary Oldman Winston Churchill, who is not actually in the show. Are you following along? I've moved people around. These are people that we don't really hear from them. There's a couple in here you might hear from a little bit, but overall, we don't really see them anymore. I need to keep them on the board because they're still alive. They didn't die yet. That we know of. We got a movie coming out. Who knows? They might die then. It's still got the whole Shelby family. King. Michael, ugh, Michael. I have turned into a Michael hater. I don't like Michael anymore. He's a fool. A downright nasty, dirty fool. This is a side note. We're having a big snowstorm right now. If I get distracted and just want to go look outside, don't mind me. We don't get snow down here very often, so this is very out of the ordinary. Okay, so if you didn't watch my first video and you're kind of confused as to where we're starting at season 4. There's 6 seasons altogether of Peaky Blinders. There's gonna be a movie that'll be coming out sometime. So let's get started. Bitch. Where did we leave off with season 3? Well, what had happened in the last scene. So they went through the whole business with the Petrovnas, right? They got the jewels, they gave them back, get the money from the Petrovnas. There's a whole thing going on. You gotta go watch that. I don't have time to recap that. Tommy went back home. He called a big meeting with basically the whole Shelby company. And he said, here's your money, everybody. Sorry to John, Arthur, Polly, and Michael. Sorry, the police are coming and you're gonna be arrested and put in jail. He keeps trying to tell him it's a part of a plan. That does not bring any comfort to anybody, Tommy, you turd. The very last scene we see of season 3, all the Shelbys and the Grays getting hauled off to the slammer. The season is gonna open up. John is such a bad... He's funny to me because he's kind of like the badass. He's laughing in the cops' faces. They're taking John, Michael, Arthur, and Polly. Polly's in a different prison. She's in a women's prison. They're taking all of them to the gallows. They're taking them to be hanged. And John's kind of laughing in the guards' faces. Arthur's a little bit more like, where's Tommy at? He's supposed to be here. We're supposed to get a pardon. Michael's freaking out. He just goes kind of catatonic a little bit. We noticed that Polly's had some kind of slipping a little mentally. She's starting to tap into her roots, if you will, talking to spirits, and they've given her some pills to keep everything in check, but it's kind of making her a little bit more wired, I guess is the best word. 3 boys go into a room and then Polly's in by herself, put into the noose, and they're standing there waiting. The guy's got his hand on the lever. Hang on. Another scene cutting in between 2 things. A man runs into this office and he says, Mr. Big. I don't think he calls him Mr. Big. There's another character named Arthur Big. Don't get confused with Arthur Shelby. I guess this guy was a real person. I never learned about him in school. Hey, Brits, did y'all learn about this dude in school? Was this like on your history test or something? Arthur Big was a British Army officer and courtier? I don't know what that means. He's able to get in touch with the king. I didn't really need to print his picture off. I mean, he comes back in a bit, but I thought he looked kind of funny in that picture. So a guy goes into Mr. Big's office and he says, bitch, please, you need to call the king right now and tell them about excusing the Peaky Blinders. Tommy had gotten in touch with him saying that his family was caught up in a conspiracy, and then he drops, whoa, I almost dropped my book. He name dropped Churchill, so he's like, I got your numbers, bitch. I got all your numbers. He wrote me up into this shit last time with the Russians. What? The Romans. I think I was thinking of Romanov. Tommy was able to get his hands when, dude, okay, do you remember in season 3 when Tommy went into the treasury? But when he was down there, he snatched up some letters that were written to them from the king. So then he has that and he sends it to Mr. Big. What would you call him? Colonel Big? He's an officer, so Officer Big. A letter from the king that he stole from the treasury at the Petrovnas, which proves the king was involved. He sends it to him, and he's like, I got dirt on all of you bitches. Let my family go now. And he says he'll burn the evidence if the family is let free from prison. Arthur Big ends up calling the king. They get a pardon, and like, just at the last second, the boys are getting their nooses put on. Polly's hanging on for dear life. Arthur says, I haven't mentioned it in my last video. There's a phrase that they say when they're about to be dead. When Tommy was about to be shot in the back of the head in that field, they say the phrase in the bleak midwinter. I'll talk about that in just a minute. Anyway, Arthur's standing there. He says it really, really quiet. Well, then they get a call. The guy runs in there and he's like, wait, stop! Just at the last second, the guy has his hands like on the lever. He's about to pull it, and then they say, wait! They're good. Let him out. They're all free. Yay! Okay, back over with Mr. Big. Tommy has also asked, as a part of his deal, burn the evidence that the king was involved, wants to be included in the New Year's honors list. Some of these things, British people, y'all are gonna have to help me out, because... And then he asked to be awarded an OBE. All my Americans out here. An OBE is an Order of the British Empire, a second highest rank besides a knighthood or a damehood. So it's pretty nice to have that as a title. From when season 3 ends to when we meet up with them getting ready to be hanged, I don't know how much time has passed. I'm assuming it's probably been a couple weeks or maybe a month or two. That would have been in 1924, but now we're going to 1925. Oh my god, that's 100 years ago. Wow! The day before Christmas Eve, so December 23rd, 1925, Tommy, he goes to, I think it's a hotel. He's also got some glasses on, like Harry Potter glasses. It's never confirmed, but I'm wondering if it's the ones that Alfie was talking about. He knew a guy that could make him a pair of glasses that would help him see the future. Something like that, I don't know. But he's having drinks. The waiter comes up and he's like, Merry Christmas, sir. Who would you like to have? And he's talking about women. Tommy says, I want someone new tonight. Season 3, unfortunately, Tommy lost his beloved Grace, and he hasn't quite been the same. Not that he was really ever the same. And Lizzie shows up, and Lizzie has been helping him out. I called her a receptionist in the first season. She's a secretary, but she basically helps Tommy keep his books. Look, I've already wrapped all of Charlie's presents. Charlie is Tommy and Grace's son. And then he also has a meeting to go to at the Singer factory. The Shelby company owns a whole bunch of factories of all different kinds of products. He's got a meeting at the Singer factory to sort out a union problem. And then she mentions that she's going to John's house. John has got a big fat house with Esme and their like 700 kids. You should probably come, and you should bring Charlie so he can meet his cousins. That would be so nice, wouldn't it? The Shelbys have not been talking to Tommy. They haven't talked to him in a year. Tommy has been alone, unless it's talking to Lizzie or his maid. He's been kind of on an island by himself. The rest of the family has cut him off. They don't want to have anything to do with him because he almost let them die. They're not very happy, and especially Polly. I'll talk about that more in a minute, but Polly is in fuming love. She mentions that Ada, who has been in Boston for the last year, she's coming back. She's going to see Arthur and everybody. And Tommy's like, yeah, I f***ing know. Who do you think paid for the boat ride over here? I'm the one that gave her the time off. I gave her the PTO. Tommy gives her a wad of money and thanks her and is like, Merry Christmas, Lizzie. Salt in the wound of Lizzie, because Lizzie really starts to care for Tommy. If you don't remember, she was a hooer. She used to have sex with Tommy quite a bit, and he would always pay her, and she said, you know, just once I wish he wouldn't pay me because it would actually mean something to you. Anyway, when he gives her the money this time around, she kind of gives him a look like, I mean, pay me for my job that I do at work, but stop paying me just to talk to you, you know? Whatever. So, we're going to the Singer factory, and Michael is there, and he has been partaking. He has been snorting that cocaine. He says that all of the factories have been having the same problem. The strikes are about to happen, people. People are wanting to start a revolution. They're tired of, I'm tired of this, Grandpa.
I'm tired of this, Grandpa.
That's too damn bad. You keep digging. And that's what Tommy would say.
Too damn bad! You keep digging!
The union convener, Jesse Eden, we talked about for one scene in the last season, but we actually get a face to the name. It's Jesse Eden. She's the union convener. Her big issue is she thinks that all of the women are getting underpaid. But before all that, Tommy asked how Polly's doing, and he's like, she's f***ing losing her mind. She's holding seances. She's taking pills that the prison has prescribed to her. She's seeing things. He doesn't really believe in all the spirits and getting in touch with the afterlife, and he thinks it's a bunch of phooey. Tommy tells him, you better start believing Wait, what does Barbosa tell? What does he tell her, Elizabeth? He's like, best stop believing in ghost stories, Miss Turner. You're in one.
You best start believing in ghost stories, Miss Turner. You're in one.
Anyway, so Tommy's like, she is really seeing spirits, so don't tell her she's not. Don't make her feel like she's crazy. Tommy also tells Michael to get her off the pills. And he also tells Michael, can you lay off the coke a little bit? Can you stop? Hey, have you ever tried stopping? Ada going to meet with John at John's house. Esme comes in there and she is upset with Ada because Ada is still obviously working for Tommy. My John himself at the gallows. He almost died. How dare you? Who paid for your car to get here? Shelby Company? That's nice. You just see that Esme is fed the up with the Shelby Company and Tommy. Because she says, I'm gonna go see Arthur. She says, what are you gonna get Arthur for Christmas? And he says, I'm gonna get him a sewing machine to sew his balls back on. And then we cut to Arthur. He and Linda have moved out to the country. They bought a little house and have a little garden and have some farm animals, and they have their son Billy. And Arthur's hair looks horrific. I mean, it normally looks pretty bad. They have some of the worst haircuts I've ever seen. But Arthur, this time around, he's let his hair grow. It's awful. So we just see that he and Linda are having a very, very quiet, calm life. All right, so Jessie Eden, right? She goes up to meet with Tommy. Oh my God, y'all, I haven't been recording the audio. I'm sorry, y'all heard my air conditioning going off. The audio's been I'm sorry. Oh, let's just get back to it before I lose my mind. Okay. So Jessie goes to meet with Tommy. It's all about equal pay with her. Men are getting paid 10 shillings more than what the women are getting paid. He's giving her an attitude. She's giving him an attitude. And he says, you know what? I'll help you out. I'll increase the women's pay by 5 shillings, but I'm going to take away from the men's pay 5 shillings. So instead of like bringing the women's all the way up to where the men's are at, and the men are going to turn on Jessie, that's what he's hoping for. She says she'll bring all her members out on strike, but Tommy says that won't happen because it's so close to Christmas. She says, I don't care. Plenty of people will be more than happy to go out on strike with me, so count your days. This is Frances. This is Tommy's maid. She brings in the mail to Tommy. Oh, I also didn't mention. Go back with me. Polly, she gets a letter in the mail from the US of A. Hang on a second. And she's asking how many guests are going to be coming to dinner because the new chef, we can know how much to make. Tommy says there's gonna be 27 guests because he's invited Johnny Dogs and the entire Lee family. Johnny Dogs, I think, has like 70 kids. People might be giving birth on the floor there, so you never know. And then he asks for Frances to join them at their table for a Christmas dinner. Says, you've been putting up with me for this entire year. I want you to sit at my table as my friend. How nice. That's so sweet of you, Tommy. Well, she respectfully declines. No, I'm kidding. In the mail that she brought in, Tommy, he notices that there is a letter from the US of A. These United States of America. Bestie! It's from someone named Luca Changretta. Do you remember the name Changretta? Because we had Angel Changretta and Vincente, the old man. This one, he died, and Angel died. Bitch, the eldest son of Vincente and Angel's brother, sends Tommy and Polly. That's what Polly got in the mail. Polly's actually says something different, but I'll talk about that in a minute. Tommy a letter, and it has a black handprint on it. It just says something like, best wishes, hope your family's well. It's a sign from the mafia because the Changrettas are from New York and they're Italian. And it says that they'll be watching. I mean, they knew where everybody lives. Jesus, he knows where Tommy lives. He could get him a letter. Damn. Ada comes by to see Arthur. They're talking about like what he's been doing for the past year, driving around old people and sick people to hospital appointments, but he would like to open up his own garage. Linda's being a bitch. Like, Linda gets annoying. Find out in the season, her mother was actually like a fucking she had a horrible childhood with her mom being a total bitch. She wanted to be completely different. She found God. She's got a reformed life. And so she's trying to do the same with Arthur, but she's so overbearing sometimes. You're just like, listen, Linda. Linda says, I don't think a garage is a good idea for us. That's going to disrupt our life a little bit, don't you think? But he's like, I like cars. I like to work on cars. Seeing that Arthur has got something in the mail too, Arthur tells Ada, I need you to come outside. She won't even let me have a little pistol in the house. I need a gun. Because he tells her about the letter. These people are watching us. God knows. They could be in the trees right now. And she's like, fine, I'll give you my gun that I have in the car. Sleight of hand and trying to do it under Linda's nose. I'm going to Tommy's next, so I'll talk to him about it by the phone and answer it before Linda gets to, because it's probably going to be Tommy calling you. We see John got a letter as well. Well, he's calling Arthur, telling him a letter from the mafia. And then Esme's listening in. She gets upset. And then John lets her know, like, whether you like it or not, I'm in it, because John, Tommy, and Arthur were in the room where Vincente was killed. And Arthur was the one that shot him. It was a mercy killing. Tommy was going to torture the fuck out of him. Arthur was like, oh, fuck that, bam, and he killed him. But either way, not good. The next scene, we finally get to see Luca Changretta. His face weirdly looks like my grandpa. I don't know. That's just, thought I'd mention it. Oh, I'm running out of room over here. So yeah, we see Luca getting off the boat, the train, whatever the f, checking in his passports, and that's just where we see him and some of his men to help do this business. Ada goes to see Tommy, and then he's like, and I've already spoken to Moss. Moss says that Luca, he's here, and he's probably gonna have about 10 men, like professional men that are, you know, snipers. 10 kills on the board right now. And that's where, that's where Tommy tells Ada, I know y'all don't want to, but we got to get everybody back together. We have all got to be in one place. You know, we could be a united front, all have to go back to Small Heath. Finn is already over there. He's been staying at Charlie Strong's yard, I guess. Finn becomes a lot more involved than he has been, I guess is the best way to put it, a little bit later. Oh, I just saw, sorry. My breath got caught in my throat. I got so excited just because I just looked at him. Reuben Oliver is not talked about ever again. No, I loved this pairing. Polly and Reuben. What happened? They don't ever talk about him. I don't know. God, she got arrested and almost killed, and he dipped. Like, the hell? That was me sidetracking. It was just because I looked over and saw his picture. Ada says that everybody else may go, but Linda and Esme, they are not gonna go. Good luck, Charlie. Not you, Charlie. They just need to be here until this business is done. That seems to be his favorite phrase. I just need you here till this business is done. Because haven't we heard that before? They went ahead, made their bed, now they have to lie in it. Wanted to kill Vincente, so now they gotta put up with the consequences. Says once all the business is done, then they can just go their separate ways. None of them have to ever talk to each other again if they don't want to. Michael is with Polly. She's freaking out because she's like, what did you do with them? What did you do with my pills? I can't get the cap off! He says, I flushed him down the toilet. You need to stop taking him. She starts freaking out. And then Ada shows up and Polly gets upset because she's like, I wanted everything to look so nice. Explains that they're all going to have to go back to Small Heath because of the letter. Okay? Now Francis comes back to talk to Tommy. I need a minute to talk to Tommy and ask, again, the chef is wanting to know what time the dinner needs to be served, before or after the king's speech. Tommy's like, can you stop asking me about this damn dinner? I don't care that much. Serve the meal, whatever. I don't care. Is this chef new? And she says, yeah, he's only been here for like 2 months. She says that he's Italian. The only problem is his assistant, his sous chef. I think his name is, oh God, I knew I should have wrote it down because I was like, oh, I'll remember it. I think it was Antonio. Tommy asked for his references, the chef's references, that the chef used to work at a place called San Marcos. Do you remember San Marcos? Do you? San Marcos is owned by Sabini. Tommy goes down to the kitchen, meets the sous chef first, Antonio, and he's like, what did you do to be peeling potatoes? Like, you drew the short straw or something? He's so nonchalant about meeting Tommy, where most people are like falling over themselves, don't even want to make eye contact with him. Tommy's kind of intimidating. He's a little man, but he can pack a punch. And Antonio's like, oh, you know, short notice, the meal and everything. And Tommy's like, well, I'm sorry about the short notice, and he gives him like 10 pounds. Antonio just takes it and doesn't really like even bat an eye. Goes and he finds a chef. Chef's cutting up some meat, and the chef is very much intimidated by Tommy. Keeps looking at him like, you must be paying Antonio a lot, huh? Just gave him 10 pounds and he looked so unbothered, like it was nothing. So you must be paying him quite a bit. Or maybe it's not you that's paying him. Maybe it's somebody else. And he gets him in a chokehold. Brings up San Marcos and he says he knows who the owner is. He says that he thinks that Antonio was brought from New York and sent to work at Tommy's house through Sabini so they could get some information. And the chef needed to know when the guests would arrive so that they could get Tommy alone and he would be able to kill him. All in the sous chef Antonio. When he does, Antonio comes in there and Tommy's got like one of those butcher hook things and he hooks it into like his collarbone, tosses him around and shit. Guy says something in Italian and he asks the chef, what did he say? He said, fuck you! And then he ends up killing him. He tells the chef to get back to Sabini and tell him when they're done with the Americans, they'll be coming after them. Tommy, stop it! Tommy calls Johnny Dogs to come and get rid of the body and he's like, what what about my goose dinner? If we find goose on the way, we can pick it up. And he's like, what, on the way to what? He says, we're going back to Small Heath, boy. Oh God, okay, this scene. Well, this was a shock right out of the gate for episode 1. Michael goes to John's place to round him up. Tommy's gotten in touch with him saying that he can't. He's been trying to call John's house. They won't answer. Michael, can you go by and get John and Esme? He starts arguing with John and Esme about going back to Small Heath. Well then, a truck pulls up. It stops right at the gate of John's house, and men from the mafia, and they start opening fire, and they shoot Michael and John. And oh, John takes the brunt of it, and John is dead. He's dead. He f***ing died. Episode 1, are you kidding? And Michael is down for the count. That is the end of episode 1. Okay, let's get into episode 2. Okay, so everybody gets word about what happened with John and Michael. They see Michael, he'll make it, but he's pretty banged up. The majority of the season, he stays in the hospital most of the time. Everybody gets word. Womp, womp, womp. Na 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 na, yeah. Tommy and Arthur go to the morgue to sit with his body for a minute. Says that phrase, in the bleak midwinter. And he tells Arthur, he said, come on, you have to say it. We promised we would. We made a pact in the trenches. Again, more on that phrase in just a minute. Esme comes in, she's hooting and hollering, she's crying. Get out. You had your time with him. I need my time alone with him as well. Starts taking his rings off and his watches. She says, I'm taking our kids. I'm taking this stuff that belongs with us. I'm just taking them out to live with my people. They're gonna know a better life than this shit. So she kind of just dips. Like, we don't really see her much anymore. All of the Shelbys and friend and company, they meet up at the betting hall and they say, Michael is wounded, John is dead, Mafia is here to fucking clean house. We need to stick together, okay? The Mafia won't leave until all of the Shelbys are dead. Mostly Tommy and Arthur. Arthur has a bullet. He wrote out Luca's name and he's like, I need to be with the one that fires the shot that kills him. At first they're like, yeah, okay, sure, Arthur. Because that's tradition with them. Again, like I said, he was the one that killed Vincente, so he thinks that it's up to him and he's the oldest. Luca's the oldest, so it just seems like, in Arthur's mind, it seems like the thing to do. Tommy says they'll need more people on their side and he sent a message to a man, Aberama Gold. Did I write that right? Aberama Gold. I don't know, I feel like I have to say it with an accent. Johnny, he's like, what the fuck? No! The Golds are fucking lunatics. They're not even allowed to go to the fairs anymore. We'll talk about that in a second. Says, I need more people on our side to help look out for us. Well, actually, he's turned into Inspector Moss. He was Sergeant Moss, but this season he's turned into Inspector Moss. How nice. Good job. Taking a page out of old Inspector Campbell's book, I see. He's sent out word amongst the police to help find Luca, but police are also busy with the revolution, with the strikes going around. He'll put the word out, but they're not going to be much help. They all take a vote to end the war amongst each other for the time being. Everybody votes for peace except for Polly. Michael's not here to speak, so I'll speak for my son, and I vote for a truce. And now Finn has been invited because he votes for peace, and then Arthur's like, shut up, Finn. Tommy's like, Finn, you get a say too, and you can have a seat at the table now. Finn, he's moving on up in the world. I don't think Finn is older than 15. In season 1, I think he is 11, and season 1 is 1919, so he's probably like 16, or math help. So I guess he's a little older than I thought. Finn seems kind of weird to me because it's like we've watched him grow up through the series. We get to see him become a man. So we got a lot of men coming in, help out with the Peaky Blinders. They're lining up, and Curly and Charlie are handing out weapons. They've got a lot of people here, okay? They end up having John's funeral. They put him in a carriage, and they're gonna light the carriage on fire. That's their tradition. And some people are concerned with it being out in the open, given the state of things. Tommy said, no, it's gonna make a statement. It's okay. We're gonna do this because we're gonna show them that we're not gonna back down. Okay, so this is where we get into the bleak midwinter. It was Tommy, Arthur, John, Isaiah, Freddie, where the hell, Danny Whizbang. Everybody that was in the trenches. Did I say Isaiah? Jeremiah, I'm so sorry. They were waiting for Prussian cavalry to come rescue them. They kept waiting and waiting, and they never showed up. So Jeremiah says that they needed to sing the song In the Bleak Midwinter. The cavalry never came. They made it out, obviously. They agreed that everything else that happened after was extra. Polly, she's still salty. She says, well, what have you done, Tommy, with your extra time? Look at this shit you got us in. They light the carriage on fire. From across the field, we see some Italian men, Luca's men, setting up to take out some members of the Shelby family from across the field. But then the day is saved. Oh my fucking God. Aberama Gold. I might just call him Mr. Gold. He comes out of the woods with his son, Bonnie Gold. They come out with a bunch of other men with them. They slit their throats. They kill the 2 men that were going to be trying to assassinate the Shelbys. And they hear the shots go off. Ready at the funeral is like, what the fuck? Tommy and Arthur are like, everybody stay calm. Everybody stay calm. Stay calm. Stay calm. Find out that it's all been a plan to have the funeral out in the open. They knew Italian men were going to be coming to try and shoot Shelby's in order to get their name out there and have a claim to fame. He knew that it was going to be happening, so he set it all up so that they could go by and kill off some of the men, some of Luca's men. Polly is not happy about that. Very much pissed. Your own fucking brother's funeral. You can't even let him have that. This looks so dumb. Linda says that she's going home. Arthur's like, well, here's the keys. Here's home. Whatever number, Small Heath. And she's like, I'm not fucking going there. I'm going home, like to our garden. Ada follows her and is like, bitch, you need to be here or else they're going to come to your house and kill you and your baby. You might as well just stay here where we can protect you. Linda is getting very, very salty about being there. She hates it there. Is Adorama really a name? Polly goes to visit Michael at the hospital. She said, you need to just stay where you are. They sewn you up like a fucking football now. But she says, once you're all better, we are going to go to Australia. We are going away from this place. I know where your sister's been buried. She's been buried just outside of Melbourne. Do you say Melbourne or Melbourne? Melbourne. Michael asks Polly could tell Tommy to come see him at the hospital, but Polly says that she bans Tommy from coming to meet with Michael at all. He is banned from this hospital. And then Michael says, then he says he'll go with her to Australia if she stops taking the fucking pills. And also, she will help Tommy. Mr. Gold wants to go by Charlie Strong's scrap metal yard. Not buy, like he doesn't want to walk by it. He wants to buy it as ownership. Tommy gets involved and he says nothing here is for sale. Mr. Gold says that he's making it a part of his deal to help out with everybody. This yard is a part of the deal now. Tommy gets a coin, flips it over to Mr. Gold and he says, we'll flip a coin for it. Get heads, you get the yard. I get heads, and you shut the hell up and I get to sleep with your daughter. And Mr. Gold is like, what? Debating on whether or not if they're serious or not about a coin flip deciding a deal or not. But he says, oh, we take this very seriously. If you flip it, you're taking the deal and whatever happens, happens. Mr. Gold, he says no, but he'll take the coin and buy a flower for Tommy and lay it on his grave when he dies. All right, we're having Christmas dinner. Woo. On the menu, we have goose. Johnny Dogs is cooking it up. He's asking Charlie, he's like, did you get the potatoes? And Charlie's like, no, I didn't get potatoes. Johnny Dogs is really funny about it. He's like, well, fine, I'll go get it. Because I want to impress the Golds and all these new people. I don't want them to think that we're poor as hell. We gotta impress these people. Polly, she has arrived. Tommy goes up to her. You know, the life you're living now is how my mother lived. She talked to spirits. She had seances. She used to scare the hell out of us. It's what killed her. Polly says when she was in the news, she was already dead, and this is all extra. She's throwing his words back at him. She lets him know that she's gonna help him, but for Michael's sake. And then she also says his friend, Mr. Gold, she says he's after something else, something more than money. You might want to ask him what that may be. What's up with Mr. Gold and Bonnie? And it's like, all right, what is it? What do you want? I want you to help my boy, Bonnie, achieve his dreams. Boxing. I love it. The Neanderthal in me is coming out. But there's a TikTok. I'm gonna play it right here. It makes me laugh so hard and it makes me think.
Saw you once, I saw you twice, I'll bend you over and f*** your nails. Come out and fight me, baby spy.
Moss goes to Arthur and Linda's house and says that he's looking for Ada, and Moss lets Linda know. Intelligence Service in London sent officers to Birmingham to take over investigating communists and seditionists, and Ada's name is at the tippity top of that list. It thinks that she came back over from America to run the revolution. She didn't, by the way. We find out Ada is fucking done with that life. She's like, no, I'm not into it anymore. But they think it's very suspicious. And he says to let Tommy know that they'll come looking for her, so just be on the lookout. May! She's back. She's coming to pick up a new racehorse from Tommy. She goes to see Curly at the yard, and she's like, I'm here to pick up this damn horse. And then Curly lets her know what's going on with the whole mafia thing. It's a very short scene to let you know she is back and she's training another horse. There's a man named Devlin who is kind of like Tommy's assistant. I don't know what his official job title would be, but he works at the factories and he helps Tommy keep his books and like what's going on at the factory. So he's basically doing Lizzie's job, but at the factory, telling him about a strike that's about to take place. He's trying to like really impress upon Tommy. Shit is about to hit the fucking fan. Tommy's like, I don't care. Give me some rope and a bell. We're building a ring out here so we can have a match. A good old fight. So Tommy goes to meet an old worker who was a 3-time champion. He's a big burly dude. Bonnie is like a fucking welterweight. Arthur's collecting bets, and as they're fighting to Mr. Gold about his son, they're saying like, well, God, what makes you think he can fight? Mr. Gold is like, no, he knows how to fight for the gamblers. He can knock him out whenever he wants. They might say, knock him out in the 4th round so they can make their bets and say, go ahead, Bonnie, show him. You can take him out now. And he just 1-2 and he's out. This fucking 3-time champion. Yeah. Mr. Gold said that's why they're not allowed at the fairs anymore, because they're winning so much. Tommy ends up giving Bonnie his hat. He's like, congratulations, you're a Peaky Blinder now. I would fangirl. I'd be like, ah, yes! Jessie is waiting for Tommy. She was upstairs the whole time while that fight was going on. I think that's kind of funny. Tommy went ahead and he did what he said he was gonna do. He cut the men's pay, and she's like, calls her out for not walking out on the strike and saying, you know, upholding her end of the doing what she said she was gonna do. She says, you know, people are not afraid to leave and we're gonna do it. And they do it. She says that people are not afraid to leave like he thinks that they are, even if it is Christmas time. And she leaves. They blow a whistle. All the people go on strike. They done did it. Devlin tells Tommy that he warned him that this would happen. Tommy ignores him and then just asks for the next meeting. Well, that is when Luca Changretta. Luca is face to face with Tommy. Tommy gets his gun out of his pocket and he points the gun at him. Luca is like, look, I had somebody already come in here and take the bullets out for you. He opens the chamber. Yes, the bullets are gone. God, he can get anywhere. So Luca pulls out all the bullets and he starts lining them up, and he's like, this one's for Arthur. This one's for Polly. For Michael. This one, John. Blink. And he knocks it over. This one's for Ada, and this one is for Tommy Shelby. He says that none of them will survive, but he wants Tommy to be the last one so he can watch it all, watch a reign of destruction. He wants to do this fight with honor. No civilians, no children, and no police. So he's like, yeah, fine, we can do that. I don't know why he didn't just kill him then and there, but you know, they want to make it dramatic. We're getting into episode 3. We got a long line of men coming in to work for the factories. Only about 10 to 20 of them are let in. It's men that are wanting to work for the Shelbys. The strike is still going on. There's a guy that throws a like bottle on fire, a cloth in it, and lit it on fire and threw it in there to try and burn the place down. It was somebody from the Communist Party that's doing the strike, that is striking currently. They want to burn down the factory. This is kind of emotional. Michael is laying in the hospital. His mother, not Polly, his adopted mother, I don't remember what her name is, she comes to see him. She brings him some apples from their orchard. I have a right to see you. You're my son still too, and you can always come home. Your brother misses you, and your dad died. Like a way to let him down easy. He says that he's expecting Tommy to come by, and she's like, well, I don't want to see that man at all, so I'll probably leave. Polly is at a meeting. Go to Michael's hospital room. Ada, Lizzie, Polly, Tommy. Obviously Michael's there. And Arthur should be there, but Arthur's getting hung up at work. 2 different scenes happening in this one moment. Polly is there to be welcomed back as the company treasurer, and they get all that stuff signed in. Who cares? So she's back on the payroll. Okay, so while that's happening, Linda is going to see Arthur, and they start to have some sex. Arthur's at the factory trying to tie up things for the day, and he's gonna go to that meeting. He's like, I'm running late, I can't stay. And she's like, well, look at this silk. They started having sex. Linda's only doing it just to keep him away from the meeting. Polly gave her the silk to also keep him away. Devlin goes into Arthur's office. People on strike have broken into the paint shop, and they're planning on lighting it all on fire. We need some and help. Arthur goes to check it out. A couple people are down there throwing paint around. One guy, he gets very bold. He throws a whole entire bucket of paint on Arthur. And Arthur's like, you know, that wasn't very nice. I wasn't gonna hurt you, but now I am. So he beats the shit out of him. And then we see mafia members, and they start shooting. Rootin' tootin' shooting. They don't hit them. Which I always find so dumb. You've got such a clear, open path. Pretty decent sized target. How did you fucking miss? At all. Well, Arthur, he's able to get his gun and shoot and kill one, and he drowns the other in some paint. At the meeting, though, they think that Arthur's just shooting the breeze and shooting the Tommy says that Luca Changretta has actually come over to Birmingham 6 years ago. He was a best man at his cousin's wedding. Well, they got in touch with the person that took the photos for the wedding, copies, and they blew up a picture of Luca's face. Blew it up as in zoomed in, not blow up like explode. They're gonna go around to all the pubs and the bars all over the town, post pictures to see if anybody has recognized these people and really narrow down the search. Can't only rely on Arthur to be the one to kill Luca because he's got that the bullet with his name on it. So Polly says, actually, before I was gonna be killed and before we got arrested, I don't know how she phrased it, but she was like, the new way of doing things to get rid of that tradition of having one person killed. We need to have just an open season with this because we got to get Luca. They say, you know what, if you have a shot, do it because we just need him dead. Luca is at I guess he's at a hotel, I don't know. He's talking to 2 of his men. One was named Mateo? We'll call him Mateo. He was like, well, what the f***? They were supposed to kill Arthur and he's not dead. He had one job. It's like, do we have anything we can use? And Mateo is like, well, yeah, we did find out about this one lady who had a son. Do you remember back in season 2, I want to say? Arthur, you know, he was going through all that Fight Club crap and lost his damn mind and he beat the hell out of a kid and he killed him. Yeah, you remember the mom? She came by with a gun and was threatening to kill Arthur. Well, she's still around. Her name is Mrs. Ross. Miss Ross got in touch with her, is willing to help out, lure in some of the Shelbys if she can, stage a party for truce, and have all the Shelbys come by, and then they can attack from there. Arthur is able to get out and go back to the Shelbys and let them know what the happened. He was attacked by people in the paint shop, and he said the only way that people could have done that is if they had a key to get in through the back door. So Tommy speaks to Devlin. Well, when we searched you, we found a one-way ticket to Glasgow, so what the hell? He said that we know your family just went there a couple days before you, and you were going to tie up loose ends here and then head out that way. Why? Did you let people into the warehouse? He says that he didn't unlock it. He leaves the keys on a hook in his office, which he normally locks, but because there was such a panic, people were threatening to burn down the damn place, kind of didn't think about it, and he just ran, and so somebody went in there and took the keys. The only reason why he moved his family out to Glasgow and that he's got a ticket is because he is threatened every damn day by the people that are on strike, smashing his windows, they're throwing rocks through his house. I feel very attacked.
Yeah, I feel very attacked.
Relax.
Relax.
Devlin says, you know, you might have let somebody from the mafia in when you hired all these new people to come in. So then Tommy says, sorry, you signed a contract to work for me. I still need you to stay here, so you're not going anywhere yet. Tommy goes to see Jessie Eden at her place, at her flat. She was listening to a song called not Bye Bye Birdie, Bye Blackbird, Bye, whatever the fuck. She's been drinking, she's been hitting the bottle. Anyway, he goes by and he shows her the wedding picture and says, you recognize anybody from this? They kind of go back and forth with one another without answering each other's questions. Says, no, I don't recognize anybody. Then she brings up Tommy's past lover. I mentioned her briefly in the first season when Grace is asked to sing a song for Tommy, and she says happy or sad, and he says sad. Well, I warn you, it'll break your heart, and he says it's already broken. Jessie knew someone named Kitty Gerasi. She had a sister named Greta Gerasi. Greta and Tommy were in love. Like, boom, 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 boom. But Tommy, again, rough and tough, rootin' tootin' cowboy over here. Greta's family didn't approve of Tommy. They didn't really like him. But she got really sick. She died of consumption. They said that Tommy was next to her the whole time, and he went to war, and he came back very bitter. And Kitty, the sister, she swears that before Tommy left to go to the war, he joined the Communist Party. He doesn't answer. Again, nobody's answering. Nobody's confirming anything. And then he says, you looked into me, I looked into you. I know your husband went to war and he came back and he was listed under people that were shell-shocked. I know that he put a bullet in his head not long after. He says, I don't know anybody in the wedding picture of Luca's family. He says, well, if you could keep an eye out, that would be really helpful. Anyone who may be mafia joining the Communist Party. So Linda has convinced Arthur. He's been struggling with, like I said, Arthur is quite the emotional man. He's struggled with faith, and especially with Linda. She says that you don't need to hold on to being the one that's going to kill Luca. You need to just go ahead and let this go. I'm sick of this. Like, it's too stressful. He almost died. Again, she convinces Arthur to shoot the bullet with Luca's name. Shoot it at the ground or something. It's the modern way now. We don't have to hold up tradition like that anymore. Linda, she goes to work at the betting hall with all the girls. Well, as long as I'm here in Small Heath, we ain't leaving anytime soon. I'm really good with numbers, but whatever. She's going to crunch some numbers. Finn comes in, and he's like, all right, ladies, let's get to work. And Polly is like, huh? What the f? Finn has been put in charge for the day. Polly is like, fine, but we're gonna give you one hell of a first date. And then they find out he's a virgin, so they order like a mail order bride to come by so that he can sleep with them. Okay, initiation. Lizzie goes to Tommy and explains what's happening. Tommy's like, well, is she a good one? Because, Lizzie was in that life. She's like, well, no, none of them are good. What do you mean? He says, let's go somewhere. I want to show you something. He goes down to the river. I was born by the river. I was born by the river. I was shaking my ass. I wanted to bring you here. I used to come here with another girl. Tommy, this is not how you swoon a lady, to come here with somebody that I used to really love. Oh my God, my wrist. Wow. Oh my God, that fucking old Arthur's coming for me. Arthur, stop it. Quit. Anyway, I was gonna say, he used to bring Greta there, and I wanted to bring you here as well, because it's a way of saying, like, I love you. I love you, baby. And they have sex on like a hay bale or something. Afterwards, Tommy puts her in charge of all the charities and all the orphanages. Polly is at a hotel or at a bar, and she's sitting down to have a drink. Who comes up behind her? Luca. Luca Changretta. We find out they're making a fucking deal. She says Michael is out of bounds, and to spare Finn and Arthur, you can have Tommy. What do you mean? What do you mean? Why? What? Luca says that his mother, who we met in season 3, Vincente's wife, obviously, she was a school teacher. Luca says that his mother knew Polly's mom, also taught Polly in school, and so his mother has given info to Luca, and he says that they should have killed his mom when they had the chance. She can play just as dirty. She ain't all peaches and cream, and that scene is just explaining Polly made a deal with Luca and gave up Tommy. And then he says, my mom also said that you used to love to dance. She says, I don't dance anymore. She walks away and Luca's like, well, that's a shame because you're dancing with me. You're dancing with me now, toots. All right, episode 4. So Miss Ross, she meets up with Tommy and invites, she says it should be Arthur. Tommy says that he'll go too, but she was like, I really just want Arthur there. To the party. The truce party. She's like, I really just kind of want it to be Arthur if that's okay. She wants to invite Arthur over as a way to forgive him. She's found forgiveness in her art. I found forgiveness in me art. The Blinders, they know. They're a step ahead. They know it's a fucking trick. The next scene we see, they're laying out a map of Artillery Square, which is where Mrs. Ross lives. Like, there's 2 entrances and exits. Sorry, there was a fuzzy on my microphone. We need to have been posted here. People up top. Like, they're mapping it all out. He goes to her house. She says, I don't allow firearms in the house. And so she pats him down. He's clean. So he comes in, sits down. She says they're just sitting around waiting for the other guests to arrive. And then she brings up him finding faith and finding God. I don't think I can find it in my heart to forgive you. What? He's like, so then why the hell am I here? So then we see Mrs. Ross's daughter. She walks out holding a white, cloth or something. Mrs. Ross is like, okay, you need to leave. She runs outside. Well, I also didn't mention, there was a truck that has rolled up while Arthur was inside of the flat, keeping an eye on it because they're like, I think this is them. The little girl runs out with her white handkerchief, starts waving it around. It's a sign. No, this is a trap. Because the truck backs up and leaves. And they say the truck that they were watching was a decoy. Well, we cut to the hospital. Oh my God! Michael's sitting there. The guard. Oh, my stars and guards. Peaky Blinder that was sitting outside that was guarding the hospital room is killed by Luca Changretta. Luca goes into the hospital room and Michael doesn't know anything about a deal that was made by Polly. So he's like shitting himself. So back at the Artillery Square, Finn runs in there and tells Arthur what's going on. They're not coming here for you. They're at the hospital with Michael. Arthur is, he's hot. And he turns to Mrs. Ross and he's like, also he had a gun hidden in his hat. And so he points the gun at her. I'm not going to kill you. I'm coming back in an hour. If you're still here, I'm going to cover you with tar and feathers. You're going to walk around like a fucking chicken, bitch. Needless to say, she ends up packing up and dipping. Luca ends up talking with Michael, looks at his bed and sees that Michael has put his hat on the bed. That's bad luck from where I'm from. It means death is coming. Pointing his gun at him and he pulls the trigger. Oh my God. He pulls the trigger, but it's empty. Tell your mother we have a deal. And then he leaves. Oh my God. Michael is literally just like, okay. Okay. So Tommy calls Charlie, to block the road because Luca and his men are going down the road. So they turn over a fruit or a vegetable truck. So when Luca and his men drive over a bridge, they can't get past it. And a police officer comes out. He's being paid off by the Peaky Blinders. He says, we'll have it out of the way in like 20 minutes, I guess. Like, he's so nonchalant. Actually, Luca's like, you know what? Let's go out there and help him move it so we can get a move on. The officer says it's a Romany truck, and to get back in their car, their driver, they're like, all right, come on, bud, back it up. We're going somewhere else. The driver is not responding. The driver is dead. Mr. Gold and his boys jump out, open fire, but they don't hit. They don't hit Luca. Again, just do your job. I think I could do it. Long story long, he's able to get away. Michael is talking with Polly about the deal that she made. She asks for him to stay alive in exchange for Tommy. Michael's clued in. Oh my God, you don't even know. If you know, you know. It gets so juicy from that deal. May Carlton, she's coming back around to talk to Tommy. She comes off of a boat and to talk to Tommy about the racehorse. The racehorse is fucking fast as hell. And she went ahead and named it Dangerous. I don't know the whole story, but there was a horse back in the day that was named Dangerous and it did very well. She stole the name. Pays her condolences for him losing Grace. And for John, Lizzie comes in and Lizzie's got an attitude because she knows that May and Tommy have had a little bit of a romantic history. She gets really salty with May. Although May didn't do anything. Like, you weren't together then. May says, you know what? I wanted to make a contribution to your charity. So she writes out a blank check and she says, Tommy, you fill it out for how much you think it's worth and you can have Lizzie here go to the bank and cash it. She's just showing off. Oh, my neck has got to... Oh, Tommy asked if she brought a overnight bag and she's like, no, I want to leave. He says, well, that's not going to happen because there's a wildcat strike going on right now. It's blocked the trains and the boats. There's no way for you to get home. But then he says that he'll pick her up later on, go have drinks with him, and that she can try his gin. Yes, he's been making gin. Did you know that? No, because they didn't mention it. Some of the plot lines in the seasons I get kind of annoyed with because they don't mention it until halfway through the season, and it ends up being like a significant part of the season. I think he mentioned that he was going to be doing it at one point in seasons prior, but well, you know what? No, I think he only mentioned that he was going to be passing the alcohol through car parts to America. Either way, or he's making gin to distribute places with prohibition. Luca calls Polly and threatens that he'll go back and kill Michael if she doesn't hurry the up and give him Tommy. Like, bitch, come on, I don't have all day. Hurry it up. Polly goes to the office to try and find Tommy to let him know. Lizzie's still there, and Lizzie ended up writing a $10,000 or 10,000 pound check, May's check, and she's like, what the do I care? Then Lizzie says, can you please read my tea leaves? If you go get Tommy's diary, or like his planner, pours some tea out, pours it back in, she gives her the cup. Polly's reading the tea leaves. Lizzie goes, gets a planner. Polly is like, is there any open day that Tommy has coming up? Yeah, he's got a Friday open. And she writes a little black star. She says, make sure that you don't book anything else on this day. So that's gonna be the day that Luca and him meet up for boom. And then she gives the cup back to Lizzie and she says, you might want to quit hitting the ball, love. You might want to go to a doctor too for that baby in your tea leaves. Lizzie is pregnant, Tommy's baby, and they had sex down at the river. She was born by the river. May, she gets to the distillery. I hate that fucking word. So she's been tasting some of the gin. She's a little tipsy the time Tommy gets to her. And he's like, well, what do you think of it? And she's like, it's good, but it's a little too sweet. He says he's been sending booze to America and Canada in car parts. And then they end up having a kiss. Also, the strike didn't happen. He made it up. He takes May to a boat. Boat's gonna take her to a train, and that there was no strike. He just wanted to have her stay and so he could sleep with her. And she's like, you bastard. And then she leaves. Like, we don't ever hear from her again. She may come back in the movie. I don't know. She just takes his horse, taking the horse dangerous to train. Arthur and Finn, hey, I'm okay. I did that in the last one too. I gotta keep moving or my feet are gonna start hurting. I have to like keep swaying back and forth. Arthur and Finn go to Miss Ross's house. They say, Finn, you're gonna move in here, but really we're gonna use this as kind of like a lookout because Artillery Square seems to be a hub for the mafia. Finn, he kind of has a little moment of emotion. He's saying like, you know, I'm not John. He was rough and tough. He could do this job. And I don't know if I'm built for this. I don't know if I could pull the trigger if I absolutely have to. He's soft right now. Ada goes to talk with Jesse Eden. They go to a bar, and at the time the bartender, he says, you know, ladies, we don't serve to just women. You have to be accompanied by a men. What? See that Ada, she's a Shelby, so they're like, oh, never mind. Shelby Company will give equal pay to men and women if she talks to Tommy. Like, that's it? Okay. And have dinner with him in Charlie's yard. Okay, yeah, sure, fine. Guys, you guys, oh my lord. So when I was watching this season the first time around, I was thinking, where is he? Where is he? He's here. Yep, Alfie Solomons. He comes to Smallheath. He's coming to Smallheath because he has got a fighter. His name is Goliath, coming to fight Bonnie Gold. And he's in the middle of Smallheath. He's like, you will go to hell for just breathing the air here.
Up a small heath, you will go to hell for breathing.
He's such a dick. He tells one of his guys, hit the call of prayer to let everyone know that they're there. So the guy honks the horn once or twice, but then Alfie's like, right, thank you. And he goes over there and lays on the horn until Tommy comes out and gets right up in his face. Hello, Tommy. And he takes him to look at Bonnie and Aberama Gold. Before they meet them, he has Alfie taste some of his gin to see what he thinks. Well, he doesn't taste it because Alfie doesn't drink. And then, oh mate, you got stallings, like birds flying around. They only understand one language. Bah! Tries to kill him, but Tommy's like, no, it's all right. So instead of tasting it, Alfie smells the gin. Alfie says it's not sweet enough. The Americans want it sweeter. Start talking about other gangs. The Sicilians are still stick with Sabini. Tommy asks what side Alfie's on, and then he gives him a little smile. He's like, you know, whatever side's greener, you know. Soon, Tommy, you're gonna be dead, and the birds, your starlings, are gonna be pecking out your eyes. People are gonna be picking your pockets and stealing everything you have, all your licenses, your money, and it'll be like you never existed. Tommy tells him that if the Italians win, they don't plan on leaving. They'll get Tommy, they'll get Sabini, they'll get Alfie, the Titanics. We talk about them more in season 5. Not the ship. There's a group of guys called the Titanic boys. He's like, you know, it's not gonna just stop with me. It'll keep on. Then Mr. Gold and Bonnie come around the corner. This was so fucking funny. Mr. Gold, he's got a up haircut. Alfie is like, when you see a haircut like that, you gotta think, have I made a mistake?
Tommy, when a pikey walks in with hair like that, you've got to ask yourself, have I made a mistake?
Alfie is hyping up his fighter Goliath. He's of mixed religion, so he's godless. Satan adopted him, but he was returned out of fear of his awkwardness, and that he's a brand new species. Like, he is just hyping this dude up. It is Black Star Day. It's February 5th. Oh, you know what? Actually, we moved into 1926. Tommy goes to see Michael. Now, this is where the drama happens. Okay, it's the beginning of the drama. You remember, Michael knows about the plan that Polly made with Luca, okay? She told him. I can't remember what he's there. He signs him sign a contract or look at a paper, but he's looking at Tommy like he's got something to say. Tommy gets to leave. Michael's like, Tommy. And then Tommy's like, what? And he says, have a good weekend. Like, he didn't say anything. He did not say anything. Michael, you bastard. I don't like Michael at all anymore. This is a Michael hate channel. Tommy hops into his car and drives away. And then we see Luca and his men in the back of another truck following him with machine guns, Tommy guns, whatever. Oh my god, it's happening. We're going into episode 5. So Tommy's driving the car. He parks it in Artillery Square. Now they've got the room where Finn's staying at. They've got it. We got it.
We got it.
Oh my god, I'm so sorry. My ADHD. Luca and his men get out of their car. They're walking around with their Tommy guns at the ready. Tommy gets to his machine gun up top and he is like, he gets one. Again, I don't want to keep saying it, but I'll say it again. You have the clearest. Just shoot him, my god. And you have a machine gun. But he gets one. They end up going into the building. Shoots another one of Luca's men eventually. Shoots him through like some laundry. Luca goes in there. He sees a child and he's like, where did he go? And the little boy says, he doesn't say anything. He points down. He didn't. He went up. He escapes out through like a fire escape. Shoots one of Luca's men that's outside. Luca gets outside where Tommy's at. They're in the street together. Face me like a fucking man. Just as they're about to pop it off, the police show up. Moss shows up. Enough. We're done. Luca and his dude take off running. Tommy tries to pay off Moss. Moss is like, I'm done. Stop paying me. We're finished. And that is really, I think, the last time we see him in the show. Tommy and Polly let everyone know it was all a plan for her to make a deal with Luca. That is what Polly's letter said at the beginning of the season when she got a letter from Luca. Said that he wanted to make a deal with her so he could get to Tommy. Polly let Tommy know that, and so they staged a plan. Oh, I want to get to Michael's part so bad, but you gotta wait for a second. Hang on. Tommy says that he knew Luca wanted to be the one to kill Tommy himself. He knew he had him on the line there. It's out in the open now. Except Michael doesn't know that. Michael didn't know that that was a plan. Michael still thinks that it's still hush-hush that only Polly told Michael. So then Lizzie finally tells Tommy that she is pregnant with his baby. At first he's like, well, I know a lady. We can get rid of the problem. And she's like, I'm not getting rid of this. And he ends up saying, you know what? It actually might be nice. We need a little bit of life with all this death going on. You gotta find a replacement for your position at work. You're not working if you're pregnant with my child. Put an ad in the paper tomorrow that she'll get an allowance and a nice house. Again, without saying anything, she gives him a look like, really? Fucking stop paying me. Arthur, he is drunk as a skunk. He goes into the safe at the betting hall. He's talking to himself. He thinks people are in the room with him. I'm just looking. I'm just checking. He gets out a box full of little vials of cocaine. He starts sniffing. And he goes home to Linda. Linda, tell me we'll be all right. Linda, please. And he says, tell me what you told me this morning. Soon we're going to be at our garden. We're going to be in our house again with our animals and Billy, and we'll be away from this life. I don't know. It's getting kind of messy for Arthur. I gotta, my back. Oh my god. Oh shit. I shouldn't have done that. Polly goes with Aberamagold and Michael from the hospital to the woods. Polly tells Michael that he is going to be staying in the woods with the rest of the Gold family. And Michael's like, oh, this. I'm going home. Polly says, you have got a big target on your back right now. The people you're going to go stay with, they don't know where they're going to be at tomorrow. They move all the time. And when you are able to get to a phone, call me. Polly and Mr. Gold, they kind of flirt back and forth. It is kind of cute. I know I said I love her and Ruben together, but they are kind of cute together. Do you know any long ways to get back home? And he's like, yeah, I'll go the longest way possible. They stop. He kills a rabbit for her. She's built a fire and she's going to skin it and cook it up for him. She's like, this reminds me of being a girl again. The fire makes me feel like I'm 16. And then Amberama asks if she can actually speak to the dead. And she says, yes. And your wife is around you often. And then he says, well, is she here now? And she's like, no. And then they kiss. She asks for his knife to cut the rabbit. When they kiss, she grabs his knife. If anything happens to Michael while he's out there with your family, I will fucking kill you. I will cut your balls off and shove them down your throat. She doesn't say that. I kind of embellished that a little. Okay, sorry, he's back. And he meets with Luca Trangreta. Luca goes to his distillery, his bakery. Alfie's standing there with his eyes closed. He says, you know, I have a young cousin who is born blind. I give a lot of money to the charity. He said that the owner asked them to take 30 minutes every day, close your eyes and whatever. So he's having a moment of meditation and honoring his cousin who's blind. You can go ahead and start your meeting, but I'm not done here. I still have a minute left. So Alfie says that Luca is a failure because he's there to kill Tommy and he hasn't done it yet. It's been, what, 2 months? And you haven't done it yet? You had so many chances to. He's giving Luca a very hard time. Luca says that all of the Shelbys are going to be at this fight, Goliath, which is Alfie's dude. All those Shelbys are going to be at that fight, so I need you to get some of my men so they can pop. I know you'll be there too. And he's saying it kind of like as a threat, like mess around and we'll shoot you too. Alfie gives him some rum, gives him a couple bottles, tells him to try it. Luca, he says in Italian to his men, this dude wants us to run his rum. Alfie's like, yes, that's exactly what I want you to do. But Luca's like, people in America don't like rum, they like gin. So Alfie starts saying that he wants cash for killing Tommy, which is 500 pounds normally, but because it's Tommy, it'll be 100 more, because Tommy, like himself, is from an oppressed people. I'm laughing because, I don't know, I think Alfie's just so f***ing funny, because he's so serious about this. Add 10 on top of that, because Arthur will try and come him and kill him. He's an animal. And then another 100 because Luca is a Italian. He calls him something else. I'm not going to repeat it. After all of that, another 500 because he considers Tommy to be his friend. And then Luca says, I don't need you to kill him. He just needs him to bring Luca's men in as seconds, like down to the ring. I don't know what you call them. The people that sit in the corner of the ring for the fighter. Check his cuts, give him water, give him a pep talk. I don't know what you call them. The coaches? Alfie tells him, he's like, they're not going down to my ring to be with my fighter unless they're Jewish. Unless you can find some people that are willing to convert and get a circumcision. The blinders will check to make sure they're circumcised. So he says, while we're at it, why don't you just add how much more? You need to add a ton more to the bill for just being a fucking cunt. Lucas says, whatever, fine, you have a deal. And then Alfie's like, you just made a deal without negotiating anything. Alfie was right about Luca and that he plans to kill all of them. You know, this is the point in the video where I'm getting kind of bored. We're right here at the end of the season, but I'm like, I just want to sit down. So Ada is arrested and stripped searched. This man comes in. His name is Colonel Ben Younger. This guy. Anyway, he comes in and she's like, dude, they just strip searched me. And he was like, well, that was not supposed to happen. Sorry. The reason why we called you in here today is because people saw you and Miss Jessie Eden down at the bar. And you are at the top of the list. Starting the revolution. When she goes into saying, like, I haven't been a part of the party in a year. Not a part of it anymore because she doesn't believe in the cause. And then he brings up a picture of Freddie. So were you blinded by love in the past? And she says, no, I was blinded by the hope of people. Ben Younger, he says, well, you've got your feet on both sides of the playing field in the party with Jessie Eden, and you got an in on the other side. He says that could be very useful. She goes to see Tommy. She's pissed. These dudes strip searched me. What the hell? And he says, yeah, I know. I met Ben. And he says that her arrest was just for show so the neighbors could see. Younger went to Tommy for help with the revolution because he's been put in charge by Churchill. Shut down this f***ing revolution. Tommy says that if he gets Jessie Eden's trust, most likely give up some names to the party. And Ada's like, why the hell would you, of all people, help the government? Get this, bestie. Let me read this. He's been offered 3 5-year contracts to supply military vehicles to the British forces in India, Ceylon, Singapore, and Burma for a value of £2 million. Well, she says, well, this can only happen if you're alive. And he's like, well, I plan to be. Okay, served. So Tommy and Jessie have their dinner. All she had to do was say yes to dinner and she got equal pay for everybody. He's treating the political climate like a horse race and he would like to know who all the runners are. A suffragette named Emily Davis threw herself in front of the horse in 1913. Jessie is like, oh my God, you know who a suffragette is? Wow, I'm impressed. Everyone laughed at her then, but now the women are now getting more serious. He says Jessie knows the names of people. I want to know who I'm placing these bets on. I need to know names. She's kind of calling him out because she's like, you can say you're doing this for the king, for the country, for the government or whatever, but you're no friend to them. The evening has gone on. It's gone well. Telling stories about their childhood. They kiss and then he says to arrange a meeting with the proper people and he'll be there. Moves are going to get made. It's fight night. Ding, 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 ding. Put him up. Johnny Dogs and the rest of the leads are checking everyone that comes in for weapons. Holly, Ada, Lizzie, and Linda go in. And we see Alfie come into view. He turns the corner and then the episode ends. We are on the final episode of the season and it gets juicy. There's a lot to unpack here, so buckle up. So Bonnie and Goliath are going at it. So then Tommy and Alfie in the locker room, and Alfie, he's like, yeah, you're like me, Tommy, you can't bear to watch a fight, it's just got rules. And then he talks about, imagine you can't see. One day you open your eyes and you can see everything. He says, that's the revolution, not the revolution. He said, that's the revelation, and I've had one. And then he talks about a house in Margate. He said he could sell all his rum and his gold and buy himself some time. It's like he's having a come to Jesus meeting. Tommy's like, so you're moving? He's like, yeah, I'm done. Because the Americans are in Birmingham and in England, so it's pretty much their game. And then he says, big f small. That's the mantra. Then he goes to leave.
Right. Margate.
And he says that he'll see Tommy. Tommy's like, well, why don't you stay for the fight? He says, no, I already know who wins. And he holds up his glasses, the ones that he was talking about before that can help him see the future. So the fight's going on. Arthur is sitting next to Tommy. He's snorting some cocaine again. He doesn't trust Goliath's corner men. They don't know fighters. They don't know what they're doing. I don't trust them. Tommy's like, it's just the pills and the booze. You're getting paranoid. Everybody was strip search. It's fine. Lizzie, Ada, and Polly, they're all in the bathroom. And well, Linda comes in there too eventually. Lizzie tells them all that she's pregnant. Polly touches on her boobs and finds out that she's having a girl. And she says, name it Ruby. That's a cute name. That is so adorable. Linda's in there and she is starting to snort the booger sugar. He's like, look, it's the only thing that's keeping me sane. Back out in the fight. Arthur, he just keeps watching those men. He's like, I don't trust them. One of them leaves and Arthur's like, fuck it, I'm going to find them. It's to the back room. The other guy that's supposed to be up there during the match, he leaves. And then Tommy goes back there to Arthur, and the first man comes up behind Arthur with like a wire, like a garrote or something. He starts to slice his throat. He strangles him. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. Oh way, oh way, oh way, oh way. Arthur is dead. Tommy goes back there. It's too late and he shoots the guy, kills the first guy. Polly, she went back there, runs into Tommy, and Tommy is like, he's dead. She tells Linda what happened. On the way back out, Finn and Isaiah ended up finding the other guy, and they say, we found him with a wire. Tommy is like, well, cut his eyes out, Finn. Be a Peaky Blinder and cut his eyes out. Finn cuts his eyes out and kills him. And then Tommy goes out to the ring, holds up his gun, and he's like, bop, 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 everybody lock the doors. My brother is dead. Sorry, I gotta change my hat. Where's my hat at? Charlie Strong, he comes into the ring and he calms him down and gets the gun away from him, and we cut on that scene. Oh, I didn't mention Bonnie won. Bonnie won the fight. Okay, well, good for you, but now's not the time. Then we see a carriage going down Small Heath with Arthur's body in it, taking it to a funeral. But before then, this is where, okay, God, okay, this is the drama I'm talking about. Michael calls Polly. Remember, he was out with the gold, and whenever he got to a phone, he was supposed to call Polly. Polly answers, and she's like, you need to come home. There's a change of plans. Arthur's dead. So Michael comes back home. They're sitting at the betting hall. Polly says that Tommy has a plan of sending Michael to America to do business. And Michael's like, am I coming back? They don't answer. They don't give him an answer. Your train leaves in an hour. Here's your ticket. And he says, you didn't tell me I was going to be shot. Do you remember? Because Michael knew about the deal that Polly made with Luca on Black Star Day. When Tommy goes to see Michael at the hospital to sign that paper, and he's looking at him like he has something to say. He didn't tell him, you're going to be shot. Got a big target on your back. Well, obviously Tommy knew, so it was a test. You mother claims that he was just protecting his mum. Whatever, Michael. Get lost. Tommy gives him his ticket and he leaves. He's going to America. He's crossing the pond. They're having Arthur's funeral. They burn his carriage, and a woman comes out of the woods holding a white flag. Everybody's like, oh my God, Tommy, look. He says, can you please just wait until we're done? They finish up their funeral, and Tommy is having a meeting with Mrs. Changretta, Luca's mama, and Vincente, his wife. She has no mercy. She is just like, you're all gonna die. Tommy wrote her a letter asking for peace. So Tommy invited her, and she says that they took her husband and her son, so they took two of his brothers. They're going to take everything that they have, their businesses, and kill them all. Luca goes to see Alfie at his bakery. They're to buy his business, but then they find out that Alfie is gone. He went to Margate, like he said, but he lined up his whole bakery with grenades. Polly talks to Lizzie, lets her know that Luke has taken over the Solomons, the Sabinis, the Titanics, all their businesses, and they're coming to Birmingham. Finn, Tommy, and Polly go to the distillery where Tommy has his gin. Luca shows up with his men behind him. He said his lawyer has drawn up a whole bunch of letters. They're contracts for Tommy to sign over his businesses to Luca. Luca said that his mother let him know it would be worse to kill all of his family and let Tommy live to see the destruction and sign over his businesses. And he pushes the papers over off the table and tells him to get on his knees to sign them. Is such a bitch. So then Tommy takes a page out of old Alfie's book and says, you know, one of my friends told me, big small. He said I had to find someone that was bigger than you. There's two families in Brooklyn that want to take over the import of liquor into New York. They move against Luca. It'll start a war between the families. It could just be a mess. Well, if we just kill you over here and that other family over there, they don't have to worry about it. They can just go ahead and take your shit. Polly says we've also got in touch with a man in Chicago. Chicago! Named Al Capone. And Luke is like, you've been talking to that fat all of the blood relatives that he's brought over from New York to help him out over here, they're all dead. And all the people behind you, they only work for the highest bidder. So Luca turns around and he's like, is that true? Mateo? All of the guys are like, Tommy's already gonna pay them more. Oh my god, Luca's by himself. So Luca pulls out his gun. He's going to shoot Tommy. But at that moment, someone walks in. Bitch, he didn't die. He was still alive. They didn't kill him. But he comes in and he shoots Luca dead. So in the end, he actually got to shoot him anyway. That's nice. So when Arthur was hurt at the fight, so Tommy killed the guy and he ran out, caught Polly, and Arthur is really badly hurt. Go tell Linda. Only people that knew were Linda, Polly, and Tommy, and obviously Arthur. Tommy tells Luca's men that Michael's going to sign the import license to New York. 300 barrels of gin will be going over there per month. Now, isn't that so goody? Okay, so the Shelbys are having a dinner, and Arthur makes a speech. Remember the last time Arthur made a speech? It was not very, kind of awkward. But this time around, he's gathered himself. He's fine. Arthur Shelby is now dead. Tommy has offered him a way out to start a new life. Business is over, so everybody could part ways if they really wanted to. But I'm not leaving. For everybody to take a vote to agree that our main man, Tommy Shelby here, needs to take some time off. They all agree. Tommy's like, what? Bitch. Okay. And I don't want to go over this scene. I don't want to do it. What if we just skip this and this never happened? Tommy goes to see Alfie at Margate. Alfie's standing there with a big giant dog. He just says, well, I hope you're planning to leave the dog out of this.
I do hope you're going to leave the dog out of this.
Alfie knows that Tommy is there to bust a cap in his ass for letting Luca have his men come to the fight. He says that he knows that Tommy's there to kill him and he wanted it to be there out on the beach. Tommy says it's not business now, and now that Alfie's officially retired, he says now it's just bad blood. And then Alfie talks about the dog, how Tommy needs to find it a good home. Are you going to look after this dog? And Tommy just immediately goes, no.
You go look after this dog?
No.
All right then.
And he asks if Alfie's armed. He says no. But the only thing that he does have on him is fucking cancer. Lit up with cancer. Doctor thinks I might have gotten it in France from all the gas. He keeps talking, and Tommy's like pointing his gun at him. He's like, can you please stop talking? Alfie, look at me, look at me. Alfie takes his pocket. Hang on, I can't get my hand in the pocket. I don't think they're real. He takes his pocket and he shoots at Tommy. Well, then Tommy, oh, I don't want to do it. I don't want to. Shoots Alfie in the fucking cheek. Oh, Lord. Oh, my Lord. Oh, my Lord. He's dead. Even the best fall down sometimes. Wrong words seem to rhyme. Anyway, whatever, he's dead. Okay, happy. And then Tommy gets up and walks away. 3 months later, Tommy went ahead and took his time off for 3 months. He was out golfing and fishing. He just was losing his mind. He's like, this fucking sucks. Was out golfing. I'm changing the hat, trying to be discreet. On the water, people are out hunting, and he thinks that all the sounds that he's hearing, it reminds him of the war. He's drinking like crazy. He hasn't seen Lizzie at all. Charlie sees him drunk as a fucking skunk. Polly goes to see Tommy, and she's like, you gotta do something, because this is not good. And she says, it starts when you stop. The voices, all the noises, all the paranoia. Tommy goes back to work. He gives Devlin one last task. He says, take this letter to Jesse Eden, and then you can go to be with your family. You're done here. In the letter, he says that he thinks things are changing, and he wants to meet up. They kiss. He wants to help the cause. He wants to meet the people that can take the strike and the revolution further. And she says there's a man named Casey Douglas. He's in contact with London and oh my God. I'm right here at the fucking end. Come on. London and Moscow. And they go home and they have sex. That's all I had to say. My brain hurts. Arthur Big. He's coming back around. He's only in like 2 scenes. He meets with Tommy. Tommy lets him know that he's made contact with the Soviet agent, the Casey Douglas man, inside the Communist Party. And he says he is used to Arthur Big. Can get any name from the party that Big needs. Arthur Big is like, well, I suppose you want to make a deal out of this. And Tommy's like, funny you should say that. I do. He says you probably want like a knighthood or something. And Tommy gives him a paper. This is kind of funny. Big says, are you serious?
Are you serious?
What he wants is to be a part of Parliament. Basically, all of the Shelby company, everybody from the factories, all of their friends, everybody goes to vote for a new member of Parliament. Tommy wins 48,564 votes, while everybody else got like 5,000. He sweeps, and Tommy is now, what is his official title? He is now new Labour member of Parliament. Ruby has been born also. They're on cloud 9. Everything seems great. He comes down the stairs and sees Lizzie holding new baby Ruby. Jessie sees that, and she notices that Lizzie and him are together. Anyway, so she kind of is like, Well, damn, I thought we were having a connection here. And that is the end of season 4. Cha-ching! Oh my god. Oh no! I'm gonna clean up the board. I'll move the dead into the graveyard. We'll be back with season 5. I will see y'all in a second, okay? You wanna go see how much it snowed? Let's go check. Let's go see, okay? Come on. Let me out. Oh my god. Nice, I could have made some snow cream. Look at that little icicle. Well, it's not little at all. Look at that icicle. I'm waiting to see like those giant sword-looking ones. You know what I mean? We haven't had snow like this in probably 5 years. All right, Sweaties. I'll see you in a second. Hey, I'm back. For you guys, it's just like a half a second. For me, it's been like 2 weeks. I don't know why. I just haven't been motivated to make these videos. I'm sorry. I don't know. Maybe it's maybe I'm depressed. I don't know. I think it's like a seasonal depression thing. I'm okay. Don't worry about me. We're getting through this. Sorry to trauma dump on you. I've moved things around yet again. Unfortunately, things have been added to the graveyard. I've moved Lizzie up next to Tommy. I've moved Michael up too. Not for any real reason, just because it looked weird. I've moved Mr. Big over this way because he's pretty much not in the show anymore. Oh, Esme's over here now too. We're gonna go ahead and pick things up again with season 5 in a new year. It's not 1926 anymore. All right. I just dropped my post-its. So in the year 1929. Season opens up with Tommy riding a horse to a phone booth in the middle of a field. Someone's calling on the phone. He answers it. It's Arthur. Arthur is sitting there reading from a letter. I'm gonna try and do his accent. So sorry, England. We can't give the assurance you're asking for and expect payment in full. That's not how he sounds. We've never heard of your people. Aren't afraid of your threats. Signed by the angels of retribution. What the f***? He calls Finn up and tells Finn to have Aberama and Isaiah go and introduce themselves to the Angels of Retribution. And he's also telling Finn to stay the f*** out of it. Does he listen? No. But we'll get to that in just a second. So, all the way in America, Michael is over there in Detroit. And he's got himself a girl. This is Gina, Miss Anya Taylor-Joy. She is his new boo thing. Michael wakes up because he's getting a call. It's 1929. What's happening? The crash of 29. The stock market. It's Polly's off in Monte Carlo. They've got business going on in Monte Carlo that they only speak about like one other time. She's having sex with a pilot or something. It's unimportant, but also that's where she's at, if you wanted to know. Then she gets a call hearing about the crash. Tommy, you know, he's riding back from the middle of that field. A camp, Johnny Dogs, and some of the Lees. He and Lizzie and their 2 kids, who I actually have printed out pictures of, have been living at them for, I guess a couple of weeks. We have got Charlie. He's been around for, well, about 3 or 4 seasons, just so you can put a face to the name. And then we also have Lizzie and Tommy's daughter, Ruby. Here are the 2 kids. Whatever. Tommy's racehorse, Dangerous, the one that May Carlton came over in the last season to train. He had to put it down. I guess it went lame or something like that. I'm not sure, but they had to put it down. Charlie, very upset with Tommy because he doesn't want him to hurt the horses at all. He heard Johnny Dogs talking about what they were doing, building a little grave for, not a little at all, it's a horse-sized grave. So he gets upset because he's like, God, Dad, you're a killer. You kill everything and you hurt everybody. He's upset with Tommy. Long story long. Well, Finn does not listen to Tommy at all when he told him not to get involved with anything, so they end up at a Chinese village. It's supposed to be Amarama and Isaiah going to introduce themselves as the Peaky Blinders to the Angels of Retribution. Well, it ends up in a shootout with the law. Shit hits the fan. They start firing bullets. Finn ends up getting hit. Where are you, Finn? Finn ends up getting hit in the shoulder. He's fine. They end up taking him to Ada's house and digging the bullet out. She finds out. She gets upset. Gets news back to Tommy, but we'll get to that. Michael calls Arthur and lets him know, bitch, the fucking stock market just crashed. And we just lost a lot of fucking money. God! He's panicking and tells Gina, get up, bitch, we gotta go. Okay, so they're coming back over. Well, hang on, I'll get to it. Arthur goes out to see Tommy, Lizzie and the kids and Johnny Dogs and everybody else is there. He brings them a newspaper and it shows a crash has happened and Tommy's getting upset. I told Michael to sell those stocks. This was gonna happen. I told him last week to sell these stocks and he didn't listen to me. Why won't anybody listen to me? Michael says that he was advised by a broker that the prices would rebound and he held on. And so Tommy tells Lizzie to go with the kids and Arthur and to go stay at a hotel. And he tells Arthur to call a full meeting, the board of directors, meaning everybody in the family. Out in the woods, Tommy's out there thinking. He's strategizing. He's sitting by a fire and he starts envisioning that he's seeing Grace. Sorry, she's covered up and I don't feel like moving it. He's been taking some opium to help see her. She says to listen to the voices and to do what they say. This is where we really start to see the he starts spiraling mentally and spiritually. Linda, old Bible thumping Linda here, has been snorting more cocaine. Her and Arthur talk. Arthur, he's slipping back into his old ways, old habits. He says that he's okay with his lifestyle how it is. She's upset that he is okay with Tommy playing Robin Hood and stealing all this money up to give back wherever he thinks it should go. But then Arthur's there doing all the actual work. Okay, so at this meeting, we've got Polly, Ada, Lizzie, Linda, Arthur. But Arthur, poor thing, he's the chairman. He's trying to start the meeting because Tommy's running late. I don't know if he's trying to stall until Tommy gets there or he just really doesn't know how to talk to a group of people. But he's like, we know what happened yesterday. It was a tragedy that happened yesterday. And people are gonna be hurt financially because of what happened yesterday. He just like keeps going on. When Tommy gets there, he says everything they had in the New York Stock Exchange is offering a return of 10 cents on the dollar. That sucks. He says that he has a proposition to present. We cut on that scene. You don't get the proposition just yet, so hang on. And this is where Ada, she brings the bullet that was shot at Finn. Finn's not there. If you really think about it, I remember in like the first episode of the show, Polly gets upset with John. Oh, John, sorry, you're over here. Because she says, I found our Finn playing with this pistol in the streets. I'm gonna shoot you if he finds it again. A little 11-year-old Finn playing with a pistol in the street to taking his own bullets. Oh, he's graduated. Lizzie's asking what was in Chinatown, and Tommy says, get this, 50,000 pounds in cash. Peaky Blinders were sent there to kill someone that they heard about a pimp selling kids. The person that they ended up killing. The pimp was blackmailing someone from the House of Lords. That sounds fancy. The House of Lords. Lords and ladies. So they killed a pimp for a high court judge. I think it was Tommy who said it. For those who make the rules, there are no rules. Lizzie gets upset at hearing this. I'm not really spoiling much, but between the next 2 seasons, Lizzie, you can tell her love for Tommy must be strong as hell because she is fed the up with him and this business stuff that he always is into. The strategy to rebuild what was lost in the crash will take time, but they have other sources of income. Don't they always? Ugh. Ada, she gets upset with that and leaves. Kind of almost in the same boat as Lizzie. She's a little bit more understanding. Polly tells Tommy to go easy on Ada because she's pregnant. Come on now. But he tells her that times have changed. She can come out and say she's pregnant. She doesn't have to hide it. People don't care. Babies are born out of wedlock. Who cares? Polly's like, you want to bet? I don't think that we've had enough surprises for one day. Maybe not the Peaky Blinders, but everybody else is not going to like who the dad is. I'm kind of giving it up. Colonel Ben Younger. I guess they had a one night or a couple of nights and moves were made, literally. Tommy has joined Parliament, okay? So he has been working at the House of Commons. He's asking trade union members to be more flexible when carrying out duties. He feels they're only asking the working men to work harder for smaller pay. Suggests those who lost in the crash learn to do more for themselves and pay for their own bills. Swag, Tommy. Sometimes you get it right. This is where we're gonna meet big old douchebag. This is Oswald Mosley. Sam Claflin, Finnick O'Dare. I could listen to him actually talk in this character for a while. The way he talks, it's very British. That was very Sean Connery. Hang on. I don't know. He's got that very like, who's that character from Family Guy? He's got like the underbite, the He introduces himself to Tommy, says that his constituency borders Tommy's. Tommy has come to his attention, to my attention. And now I feel like I'm doing a Grinch impression. That's just where they meet, okay? Tommy's going to meet with, I think he's the judge, who was involved in the reason that they went to Chinatown and killed the pimp. Going to the guy that's supposed to pay him 50,000 pounds. Well, the guy's sitting there and he's like, because of the crash, I lost quite a bit of money, so I only have like 20,000 here, but I'll get the rest of it to you when I can. And Tommy's like, no. He sees that the guy was in the cavalry and he says, you know, I waited on the cavalry many a times when I was in the trenches. He tells them while they were there killing the pimp that the Blinders collected photos, letters, checks, whatever, showing that he was involved with all that stuff. Bitch better have my money by Monday or I'm coming to collect your life. And I've seen the photographs. Bitch. A new person named Adam, he's not here for long at all. Basically taking over Lizzie's spot. Adam's like, do you need anything else? And Tommy says, no, I'm leaving now. You can lock up. Adam's like, well, you can't leave now. You have an appointment scheduled. You scheduled it. The reporter, you met with him before one time and he sent over some questions and you specifically put him down on the books today. His name is Mr. Levitt. Do you remember season 1, like episode 2 or 3, they're burning portraits of the king to send a message to the government, invited Mr. Levitt down to write a report on what they're doing, that he could put it in the papers. So this is that guy. He's coming back. Mr. Levitt says that readers want to know more about the men that represent them, not him. Also shocked that Tommy was elected as a socialist. Was the road to get here pre-planned, or did you just kind of make it up along the way? It just reminds him of all the good things that he's done. Like, I've done charity work. We've opened up our own charity. We have our orphanages. Give back to people. Employed God knows how many people in my warehouses. Thank you very much. Write that. And you can check that. Mr. Levitt ends up bringing up Inspector Campbell. That's a callback. Once I finished writing all my notes and I heard Campbell, I was like, Campbell. I haven't heard that name in years. Inspector Campbell was found dead, and he's asking if Tommy had anything to do with it. He's trying to weasel his way into private information, and Tommy's onto him. You know what? Let me stop you there, Mr. Levitt, because while you've been researching me, I've been researching you. And what I found, he says that he's unmarried, and unmarried is underlined on his file, ordered to be a homosexual. A homosexual? Tommy says he thinks that private lives should remain private. So Tommy goes back home to his big old mansion, and he has Alfie's dog. Do you remember when Alfie... R.I.P. King. He died. He was asking if Tommy would look after the dog, and Tommy flat out was just like, no. He took the dog home. To end the first episode, Mr. Levitt going home, getting in the elevator, 2 Peaky Blinders show up. He's dead. He died. They killed him. Scene. Y'all, I'm missing the Oscars to make this video. I love watching award season. This is like my favorite time of the year. Oh my God. Our boy Cillian Murphy's got to be there. He's got to present an award tonight, doesn't he? Because he won for Oppenheimer. Oh my God. We've got to hurry this up. We're in episode 2. So Tommy, he hears or sees something out in the middle of the field in front of his house. He's like, what the is that? What is that? I thought it was a scarecrow at first, but it's like a dummy. The Peaky Blinder hat tied up to a cross, and on it has a note: look down on earth and see the seeds you have sown. Well, then he looks down into the soil, and there's a bunch of landmines planted everywhere. Retracing his steps very, very gingerly, Charles runs out there and he's like, Dad, you have a phone call. Tommy's like, fuck. Oh, fuck. He picks him up and he takes him off the field. Everything's fine. Okay? For now. Tells him to go inside and practice his violin, play it really loud because he's going to hear some bangs. Goes up and shoots it, and it detonates all the bombs. That's not funny at all. But the call that was missed calls it back. We can hear Michael just for a second, and he's saying, like, don't listen to them. He gets cut off by a woman. Michael's on a ship from America. He's being held at gunpoint by a woman named Laura McKee. Why are their pictures all banned? A lot of people on her side of the city want Tommy dead. Found Michael on a ship, and he was making deals with the men who wanted him dead, who wanted Tommy dead. Michael was making deals with the people that wanted Tommy dead. And she's like, we can go ahead and kill him for you if you really want. And Tommy's like, you can send him back to me. He was also talking to representatives, County Tyrone and Glasgow UVF. He was talking to them about how they're going to divide up the English racetracks after they killed Tommy. Tommy's like, why did you even bother calling me about this? Why bother at all? You've got angels on your side. The angels of I can't say this word. Retribution. Says the angels could be very useful to us. Oh my God, do it yourself. Get off your ass and go to work. That scene ends. Sending Michael back. Unfortunately, Tommy and Arthur go to the garrison. They find Finn is there, living it up. They are just giving him a hard time for getting involved, even though Tommy told him not to get involved. Finn also lets them know that he's met a girl and he wants to get married. Okay, news to us. Lizzie has been staying with Arthur and Linda at their house, and Tommy's asking Lizzie and Linda if they talk about him. Arthur's like, yeah, but you know, I don't listen. I don't listen to a word they say. And especially Lizzie talks about Tommy doesn't sleep. A reoccurring thing throughout these last 2 seasons. That Tommy, he just don't sleep. He says when he does, he dreams that someone wants his crown and he thinks that it's Michael. A police officer goes to the House of Commons to meet with Tommy and asking about Mr. Levitt. Mr. Levitt was found shot to death. Diary on his little journal. He had an appointment with you. This was probably the last place that he was at. So, what's going on? Basically, he ends the meeting. This meeting is useless and a waste of time. And it's just kind of ended there. Just like he says this meeting was useless, this plot line was kind of useless. I mean, I get it, but Polly and Arthur go and pick up Michael from the train station. Well, Michael, he's like, before you say anything, meet my wife, Gina. We had the Captain Marius on the way over here. So Polly says that Tommy asked Michael to tell Polly the truth, and she would be able to know the whole story. What happened? Were you really trying to give him up to other people? Gina keeps trying to interject. And Polly is just being very rude to her and short. Not even looking at her. She's like, I'm not speaking to you. I'm talking to my son. You whore. He's having a Tommy moment. It's in the same cadence when Tommy's like, no, fighting. Michael has his moment where he's like, I did not betray my family. She says she believes him and that she booked him a hotel room at the Midland Hotel. Now, the Midland Hotel is where Tommy has some women working there, working the phones, and it's basically like the eyes and ears, finger on the pulse of what's going on in these hotel rooms. Arthur says, think of it like a quarantine, okay, until we realize that you're clean. I'm not doing shady shit on the side. Polly believes that Michael is actually telling the truth. He's just being a total dick about it. Ada and Tommy meet up at the House of Commons, and they're meeting with Mosley. He talks about Tommy's horse Dangerous, and we also have a mutual friend with May Carlton. And she said, when I mentioned your name, spoke about Tommy like somebody would about a party they barely remember, like they had one hell of a night. Is that a compliment? Or so Mosley is a ass. He's a jackass. He's pushing buttons. So Ada says that she advised against meeting with Mosley because he's moving away from the party towards fascism. Buckle up. We're getting into the, well, you know, this time of year. Shut up. This point in history, we're starting to branch into that old fascism. Mosley asks where Tommy stands on the Irish question. He wants Tommy to speak in favor of him, rally working class voters to support Mosley's party, the fascist party. He says that he'll get a promotion to junior minister to the Duchy of Lancaster, which is him. He's the... What the f*** is a duchy, by the way? Tommy says that Birmingham is his concern and Ireland bores him. This is where the seed gets planted. Okay. Tommy and Ada are leaving the meeting, and Tommy tells Ada, I need you to call around and see if there's any dealings Shelby Company while she was in Boston, and ask about Michael, because he's not trusting Michael, okay? He's getting paranoid that people are surrounding him because they think he's gonna fall and people want his spot. Buckle up. Tommy and Arthur get to the garrison. Polly's there, and she says, can you guys put your weapons away? Tommy tells Polly, I had a dream of a black cat, and you told me one time that a black cat means Schrader is close by. Polly's like, yeah, well, a black cat can mean a lot of things. Hold your damn horses. It could also mean you're hurting yourself, too. So Michael and Gina show up. Michael tells Tommy that he only betrayed him in his heart. He saw money in the accounts while in America and thought about taking it and going to California to invest in Hollywood in the pictures. But Gina stopped him. Okay, I could have left. I could have taken that money if I really wanted to, but I didn't. So you can't be mad at me, right? He's asking what happened on the ship, and Michael says he and Gina needed a witness for them to get married. He met someone from Belfast who had friends that ran a whiskey distillery in County Tyrone. They want to get their stuff to America. So then he starts thinking like, oh, I can make a deal out of this. After he invited them to go with him, he realized that they were Scottish from Glasgow, didn't make whiskey. They lied like a fucking rug. They said Tommy was spent and that politics have gotten to him. All right, who are you to say? Like, I can't defend Tommy with most things, but when other people start coming in, I'm like, what do you know? What do you know about this man? It's okay if I say it. I've been through this with them. Y'all don't know nothing about him. Knew that the Shelby Company had lost in the crash and would blame it on Michael. IRA then came aboard and said that the men from Glasgow were called Billy Boys. They run all of the ships in East Glasgow, ties with Belfast, UVF. They're a Protestant razor gang. Also, they're the security for the fascist party. Well, I guess he would be the leader. This is just the face to put to the Billy Boys. Jimmy McCavan. I don't know a Scottish accent. I can't do Scottish at all. I can say, that'll do, donkey, that'll do. Bulgars have layers. This is a lot of people on the board. I don't know if I'm spoiling it by telling you. Quite a bit of these people will not be here by the next season. The graveyard is going to be at max capacity. Michael said that he made no deal because he was excited to give Polly the good news that Gina, the reason they got married, Gina's also pregnant. So now we got Ada and Gina pregnant at the same time. Okay, he says, and I quote, his unborn child was witness to what he just said and will be born accordingly. What? And he tells Michael that he wants him to pay back what he lost him in the crash. That's a lot of fucking money. Okay, Aberama Gold and his boy Bonnie have been out camping. Also, he's cut his hair. He got rid of that ugly ass haircut. I guess what Alfie said to him really hit him. He got his feelings hurt by that. So he got a haircut and he hears something. He's like, the Billy Boys jump out and they start roughing him up. They shoot him, drag out a cross, and Jimmy McCavan says to Bonnie that he heard he was a fighter. The fighting days are over. They kill Bonnie, and then they strap him up to a cross. And they make Aberama watch. And they put a piece of paper in Bonnie's pocket. We'll find out what it says in just a second. Jimmy tells Aberama to tell Tommy that it's time to share, and they're going to take the racetracks, or it'll be Tommy that's nailed to the cross. What the f***? Bonnie is out. That really literally tears Mr. Gold up inside. Arthur, Finn, and Isaiah actually starts getting really involved in the later seasons. They go to the garrison and they see a man singing as Billy Grade. Billy Grade, okay? He gets really nervous around Arthur. Billy was an ex-football player. Football as in soccer. Arthur says that Billy knows people in that world, basically asking him, get in touch with referees, players, the whole team in general, fix some games with us. We can make some money. And Billy's like, okay, all right, great. You're a Peaky Blinder now, Billy. Lizzie's like, honestly, the reason that we stayed at Arthur and Linda's was because Ruby is scared of Tommy. She's a totally different kid when you're not around. And then he says, him and Arthur, the time that they had in the war, made them the way that they are. And he can't write out the words about how he feels or why he is the way he is, because they haven't even invented the fucking words. I can't explain it to you because I don't even know how to explain it. The joke of it all is that they volunteered to go. I don't even know why he had to add this in there. This is just plain rude. He just says, and you know what? In my head, I still pay you for the sex, Lizzie. See, this is what I mean. Tommy, you're a bastard. You're a bitch ass hoe. But then when Jimmy McCavern starts threatening him, I'm like, step to him. We hear engines revving outside. It's Aberama Gold. He's got Johnny Dogs beat the hell up. My boy, Bunny, he's dead. He says that Johnny Dogs was the only one that knew where the Golds were staying at. Johnny, he didn't do it. You gotta believe me, Tom, it wasn't me. And then he gives him the paper that was stuffed in his pocket, and it just says, by order of the Billy Boys. Get your own phrase. Tommy's trying to calm him down, and he's like, dude, your shoulder is shattered, or you're gonna have to get your arm cut off, so calm the hell down. We need to get you to a doctor. And then Lizzie comes out there, and she's like, enough of this. Everybody go home. Get out of my house. Johnny, he's upset, and he says, Tommy, you know I'm not a black cat. You know, like the traitor. Tommy lets him know that, you know, out of everybody that he knows Johnny is the one that he can trust. That is the end of episode 2. At the orphanage, St. Hilda's, the Shelby Company donates to, but it's not one of the ones that they have built themselves. Polly and Tommy go there in order to speak with the Mother Superior. They are mad as a hornet. Polly says that they've heard terrible things. Basically are beating the snot out of these kids. Like there's a mixed girl there, forced to wash with different soap than everybody else. The Mother Superior tries to blame the kids. She's like, you know, these kids are just awful, so it's their fault. Mother Superior says like the Peaky Blinders and the Shelbys, their sins are one of legend. You think we're sinful? We could go toe to toe. And he says their sins are nothing compared to the little black girl that's with them that hung herself out of fear of Mother Superior. Imagine how awful you have to be that you would rather take your own life. She says something like, well, can't you see? And then he cuts her off, snatches her glasses off, whack! Smashes them and tells her to put them back on, and she'll see the world broken like the kids do. And then Tommy's like, we're not funding you anymore. The kids are all gonna go to their own orphanages. Have the day you deserve. Tommy tells Polly, hey, I need you to go visit the hospital to see Mr. Gold. Let him know that we are gonna get in touch with the Billy Boys and Jimmy McCavern, and we're gonna try and work out a deal where we can use them as much as possible. And then afterwards, he can go to town on them. And she's like, why do I have to be the one to go? And he's like, well, because he's in love with you. He's like, look, he even got a haircut for you. So Michael, Arthur, and Tommy, they were going to meet with somebody to establish a relationship with McCavern. They're sitting in Tommy's office at the House of Commons. Michael, you'll sit here and don't forget to smile. And then he tells Arthur, you don't smile. You're very scary. They say the guy that's going to come in here, you think you've met bad men before, but this is the f***ing devil. Who walks in? Mosley. Tommy, he's like, do you know Jimmy McCavern? Let's cut to the chase. He doesn't give him an answer. He plays dumb. He's like, what are you talking about? No, I don't know that man. Sorry to this man. But Tommy's like, all right, cut the bullshit. You've worked close with McCavern, and we think that he could help us. Tommy says he wants to know what Mosley's strategy is. And Mosley doesn't answer, but then he looks over at Arthur. He has spies that have seen Linda out with a man. He's just trying to grind Arthur's gears. He says that he needs a man like Tommy for when he starts this new fascist party. He likes the way that Tommy speaks in the house. He puts an envelope on his desk and says the investigation on Mr. Levitt, he made it go away. That's what I'm saying. Like, that storyline was kind of useless, but I get it. Mosley made it go away. It's showing him that he's on his side. And then he also tells Tommy, bring a cigar to our next meeting to celebrate their union. Tommy is invited to be deputy leader of the new party. Yay, thanks. Linda goes to see Lizzie. He's been going to see Quakers. Talks about the guy. There's nothing romantic between us. He listens to me and he talks to me, and it's just nice to have someone do that. Says that she went to a solicitor, basically like a divorce attorney, but as soon as she found out that she was a Shelby, suddenly they couldn't speak with her anymore. Lizzie's like, I went to see a solicitor too. I had to find one in London. Help you out if you really want out of this. So she keeps talking about the Quaker boy, the Quaker Oats man. Lizzie's like, well, you better watch it, because if Arthur finds out, he will kill him. Polly goes to see Gold, ends up getting him out of the hospital. Woods in the mountains. She's taking him to be with his sister and her family out there. She says that he needs to stay here to let Tommy deal with those that killed his son. That ain't gonna happen, but wishful thinking. He gives her a rose. They're flirting, and he says that he has one more kill left and then he'll be done. Polly leaves him there with his sister. Mr. Gold turns to his sister and says, I need you to get me a bunch of machine guns. If you can help me find out where the Fury family is located, that would be great. This one has been around since season 2. I just never put... He's not really in the show that much until the later seasons. This is Carl, Ada's son with Freddie. He's a little shithead. I'm gonna tell you. He was pissing me off every time he would come in on a scene. He's playing chess with Ben. Some of the kids at school are saying that Jewish people and blacks are the worst kind of thing ever. Ben says there's a lot of stupid people that say a lot of stupid things. He says, well, what do you think about it? And Carl says that he doesn't want Ben to be his dad because his dad is white and in heaven. You're just a shithead, Carl. That was just a scene to show you that there's a racial tension that's starting to bubble up, even more so. Tommy, Michael, and Arthur go by Ada's house where Ben is at. Ada's out because she was taking Gina to a doctor's appointment for the baby. So then Tommy shows the letter from Mosley to Ben talking about Mr. Levitt, and gives him the letter because he says there might be seditious intent, and to give it to Ben's higher ups. He says that he can join the organization and undermine him on behalf from the king, and then Ben agrees. Tommy goes back to his house. He goes into his office. Well, it's Johnny Dogs having sex with one of his maids, by the way. Tommy's like, well, I see you're feeling better after you just got beat up by Aberama Gold. Johnny got word that Aberama is going to Scotland to deal with matters himself, Billy Boys. Tommy tells him to go out and find him with Arthur. Jessie Eden. Don't forget about her. Jessie Eden. Activist, boss-ass bitch. Her and Tommy meet at the garrison. She wants him to speak against fascism at her rally. He says it's not a part of the current strategy. Basically, what they built up in the last season with the two of them, he's like, I'm not going to be able to help you right now. She leaves, kind of frustrated to say the least. He starts to envision Grace again. Lizzie and Tommy are having a bit of an argument. She decides to take his payments in her head. The deal is that he won't have sex with anyone in their house or a day within holding their children, and he'll let her in once in a while to clear out his head. Tommy calls Arthur. Arthur knows that Linda's over there staying with Tommy and Lizzie. She doesn't want to be around Arthur. And Arthur is refusing to go to Scotland to look for Aberama Gold until Tommy tells him, what the is going on with Linda? All right, this is what I know. And don't jump the gun. Linda has been spending time with the Quaker. It's nothing romantic. Nothing would have happened between them because he is a Quaker, so there's no need to go kill him. Well, that doesn't happen. Arthur goes to find this Quaker man, the Quaker Oats man. He uses his hat. He ends up just cutting up his face and mutilating his face horrifically. The guy doesn't die, but it keeps saying that he's a good man, but his hands belong to the devil. He goes to Charlie to get him to Scotland. He says he needs petrol and weapons, grenades. In Glasgow, the Billy Boys go up to the Fury family saying people like them are not allowed to drive on the roads and walk through their streets. They're going to be taking all their things. Well, Mr. Gold, well, here, you can have the keys to my truck. And he walks over there to give it to him. He cuts him. Giant fight breaks out. Mr. Gold goes and gets the tar from his truck, pours it over the guy as a message back to McCavern that they have a bullet with his name on it. Then Tommy and Mosley at their next meeting, Mosley says that he met with Mussolini and men like him, and Tommy will shape the future. That is that's scary. Mosley will resign from the Labor Party the day before he announces his new party will start on New Year's Day in 1930, a new decade. Tommy then goes and calls Ben to let him know that he's agreed to work with Mosley and wants to know his position will be safe. Arthur finds Aberama Gold, like carriage thing. Arthur says that he's got his car and they can make a getaway, but they only have like 2 minutes. So the Billy Boys get to the Fury camp. It's full of grenades and they detonate. McCavern, it pans to him and he's like, well, this means war. That's the end of episode 3. I filled up a whole notebook. This is seasons 1 through 5.5. I filled up a whole damn notebook. Thank you. It's a personal feat. Don't worry, I have another. Episode 4, let's go. McCavern, he shows up in Smallheath coming down the canal. One of his men is holding up a white flag. Tommy also has a white flag. Tommy says they have mutual friends and should put their fight aside for now. He has business for McCavern and booked him a room at the Midland Hotel. Now remember, the Midland Hotel where Michael's staying at is like, it's not like wiretap, but you know, he can listen into phone calls that are being made. Really great down here. He's talking to Arthur and Finn, football matches, football players and teams that he's able to get in touch with. Arthur says, okay, well, that's nice, but what about the referees? Okay. Okay. There's a line of people at the garrison lined up to talk to Arthur and Tommy. A Chinese man comes in. His name is Brilliant Chang. Yes, you heard me. Brilliant Chang. But Arthur's like, well, that's not possible because Brilliant Chang is dead. Brilliant Chang is like, yeah, well, you're dead, aren't you? Didn't Arthur Shelby die? He doesn't say that. He doesn't bring that up. I'm just saying. Finn, he is at the betting hall. A girl comes in there and he thinks that it's a prostitute. But then she pulls out a gun, holds him at gunpoint, who's working with Mr. Chang. The phone rings. They pick it up and Finn is like, help me. So then Arthur pulls out his gun, points it at Chang, and then they hear a shot on the phone, but the girl only fired the gun up to the ceiling. And anyway, they cool it, and Chang brings out a little packet and pours some dust on the table, and it's opium, the purest opium that's ever been in England. Tommy says, yeah, I've heard of it, and it comes off a ship from Shanghai, and he knows there's 7 tons of opium and worked it out that there would be about 1,190,000 pounds. Finn runs over, guns blazing, and he fires a shot, but he misses Chang. Chang gives Tommy some opium as a gift. Arthur, Polly, and Tommy are having a little get-together. They've got an idea for a deal to move the opium to Poplar Docks. Originally, Polly does not agree with it. She votes against it. But then Tommy goes, ugh! There's 7 tons of opium headed to San Francisco. It doesn't leave for a week and they need to store it somewhere. So all they have to do is move it up the canal, keep it for a week, and then give it back. But then Arthur reminds them that they don't mess with the Chinese, but they're offering 250,000 pounds just for them to hide it for a week. Just half of what Michael lost in the crash. Tommy says that he will place Michael in charge, and Polly says that she'll give the okay only if that means that his position will be reinstated. They agree. Polly agrees. Arthur says that he doesn't like the idea and he votes against it. But anyway, 2 out of 3. Polly talks to Arthur saying that the Quaker Oats man that he cut up horribly disfigured now and hardly anybody can even stand to look at him. It's time for you to give up on Linda. Like, this isn't healthy for either one of you. She doesn't care about you. And he just says, oh, I can't do that. Mr. Gold goes to meet Tommy at the House of Commons, and Tommy says that he needs to keep McCavern alive. That's not going to work for Mr. Gold because he's already got a time and a place and a strategy of his own on how he's going to kill McCavern. War between the Billy Boys and them is postponed temporarily for business, but when it's done, he can kill him however he wants. He says that after he will marry Polly as a part of their deal, and then he says that he's having a ballet at his house. Oh, that's cool. Theater company put on Swan Lake at his house for Lizzie's birthday. It'll be nice and romantic, and that's where you can propose to Polly. Mosley remarks that the date of the ballet is on Lizzie's birthday. He says that he looked into his wife and he realized that, oh, I was a frequent flyer with Lizzie. And if I need to remind you, Lizzie was at one point a prostitute. She slept with a lot of men. One of them happened to be Mosley. He said maybe they could pick up where they left off. Like, Mosley is such a But then Tommy's like, well, you researched me and I also researched. Tommy does a lot of researching, or he has a lot of people researching for him. That would be my job. If I was in the Peaky Blinders, I do all this research. I could fill up so many notebooks. But he found out that Mosley, his wife's sister, and their stepmother, you've been having sex with everybody in the family. He threatens to get the church involved. Mosley, he says that they both relieve themselves wherever they choose. Because he's like, Tommy, you ain't a prize. Once Mosley leaves, Tommy's sitting there. Grace appears and again is just telling Tommy, you don't even need the opium. You don't even need the junk to see me now. Says, listen to the voices and do what they say. Then she says it wasn't the sapphire that killed her, but it was Tommy. Do we really think that's happening, or do we think that's just his inner monologue with Grace's voice? Tommy goes to see Ada, brings Ben conversations he had with Mosley. Oh my god, my head itches. Plans on building works, and he wants the communists to consider his new party fraternal, so now that his activities are a part of Ben's official remit. Tommy tells Ada, as he left his office, he was standing on a bridge looking down at the canal, and he saw the January. Now, the January is a boat that Tommy was born on, his mother was born on, like a little tugboat. January coming towards him. He was driving it, and it was full of coal, and Grace was laying on top of the coal, but she was still alive. She opened her eyes and looked at Tommy. It's a boat that I was born on, and I've never gotten off of that boat. He says there's an unfamiliar part of himself that only the January can get him away from. This is where he starts to get tapped into his spirituality and his dreams. And so she tells him, stop taking the opium. It's not helping you at all. She says, how much opium do you have left? He says, I've got 7 tons of it. He also says when her new baby is born to keep it away from him. So Polly tells Michael about the plan. He's going to be moving the opium. She says, you're going to be moving coal. And he says that he'll discuss it with Gina. But she's like, Gina is not going to go for that. He thinks that it's a coal shipment. She's going to be like, why bother? Why are you bothering with that crap and coal out of the fireplace and rubs it into Michael's hands is to get it in his skin, get it under his nails, and then go home and see if Gina will let you touch her. She says that golden brown, which is the color of the opium, is more her taste, and especially when she hears how much he'll make. Polly knows just what to say. McCavern and Tommy are waiting by the water. Tommy tells McCavern that him and his men will start with 10 bags of opium to sell to make sure they're not going to shorthand them. They're not going to start off with the whole 7 tons of opium. Tommy says that he wants 10,000 pounds in cash, but McCavern is like, that's a lot of cash. People are not going to have that just on hand. What about a check? And Tommy's like, no, I don't trust checks. They can bounce. That he'll take a check if it's guaranteed by Mosley. If McCavern tries to shorthand him or fake a check, it'll come back to Mosley. And he tells him that he's bold to skim the Chinese and must have a death wish. What you don't know. Oh, you idiot. You big idiot. Oh my God, guys, we're having a ballet. We're having Swan Lake. This is what not Nicole Kidman. What's that girl's name? Natalie Portman. This is what she's made for. Michael and Gina arrive. Okay, Gina, you're going to say that you're really tired when an intermission comes, so we can just leave. So talks to her about the offer that Polly has presented to get back into the company. Tells her that he'll make $1 million a year, but they can go back to New York and, come back. Short periods of time. They'll have money and power, and Gina hints at Tommy being gone, or just not the leader, and that Michael can come in and swoop. Because Michael's like, well, where will Tommy be? She says, well, he'll be where he wants to be most. Dead? So Lizzie and Tommy, they're having sex. Never mind, there's a big party going on. Even Tommy, he's like, you know what, it's our house. We can go out there whenever we want to. Polly's out there talking to Mosley, offering him drinks and drugs and opium. We have special maids that we hired with name tags. They're for the taking if you want them, but no sex with the ballerinas. When Tommy's all finished, buttoned up, he and Mosley go to the office and talk, and Oswald, excuse me, we're not on a first name basis. I don't like you like that. I don't really think I like this, the way you live. Criticizes his manners at his own party. Should have been here to welcome all your guests. Just flat out rude. Drugs and alcohol need to be served at this time. And Tommy brings up McCavern and says that he doesn't trust him. He wants Mosley's signature on a check guarantee slip or something like that. And Mosley's like, well, how do I know you're not going to use this against me in the future? What is McCavern paying you 10,000 pounds for? And Tommy says, well, I'm selling my gin distillery. I'm selling it to him and I'm buying a new one. Wink, wink. Mosley says that Tommy is concerned with what his weakness is, what Mosley's weakness is. He had Polly offer up the booze and the drugs and the women, and he was trying to find out his weakness. And Mosley's like, you want to know what my weakness is? A tendency to trust people. And then he signs the paper. What an idiot. Lizzie and Mosley, they finally come face to face. Lizzie says that she did sleep with him, and it was f***ing awful. He fell asleep. Mosley says that it was a bottle of champagne well spent. Lizzie's like, I disagree. They're watching the ballet. The swan is about to die. Arthur's asleep. Mr. Gold throws a little pebble at Polly. Come here. Anyway, he ends up proposing. She says yes. She's like, let's have sex before the swan dies. Okay. Tommy sees a car pulling up to the house, gestures to Michael to wake Arthur up, and then Arthur goes, it's Linda. I heard there was a family event, is holding up a gun, and she points it and is going to shoot Arthur. We hear a pop. Linda falls down. Shit. I'll tell you now, she didn't die, but she gets shot by Polly. She's like, I've had enough. And that is the end of episode 4. Linda, at the top of the episode, is brought into the dining room. Have to get the bullet out of her arm. It's chaos, okay? Linda's screaming. Mosley walks in at one point. Tommy, you've got guests here. They get the bullet out. Arthur's like, you should have let her shoot me. You should have let her do it, Paul. Polly says, you can't die because Aburama said that he wants you as best man in our wedding. You still have some business to do here, sir. Anyway, cut on that scene. Linda's fine. She might have deserved it. So Mosley, honestly, this is kind of where his movement starts. He addresses the theater company and the guest on behalf of Tommy, and he thanks them all for being there. And then he switches up. Let me let you all in on a new endeavor I'm going to be taking. This is what I wrote. I said, he tries to sell the idea of his party, the fascist party, and he gasses up Tommy. In the new decade, he will start a new political movement with Tommy at his side. Now, this is where, God, your true colors. I was going to start singing, but I won't. And he basically says that all the other religions are a cancer to the British society. He uses the message, Britain first. He thinks that the press is going to misconstrue everything that he's saying and not get his message across the way that he thinks that it should be. Everyone there needs to go and spread the word. The party is going to be called the British Union of Fascists. The BUF. The BUF. Mosley talks to Tommy about the whole thing with Linda, like shooting at the party. All that's got to stop. If you're going to be on this ride with me, this has got to stop.
Bitch. Oh,
Where's your
me. Oh, that hurt. You. Hey.
Oh
my God.
I thought this was a classy party. He was looking into the Shelby Company and he noticed that their lawyer was a Jewish man, and that will have to change. That's not going to fly. This is where we see a lot of the Jewish hate, black hate, Irish hate. When Mosley begins the campaign, the country will be divided and McCavern and his men will have the North. The Midlands will go to the Peaky Blinders, and he says the South is undecided just yet. And then he says, I think I'm going to have sex with the Swan. Tell her to come up to my room. Once he finishes, he walks out in the hallway and sees Lizzie, and he tells Lizzie, why don't you come and join us? Obviously says no, goes to her room and tells Tommy that he's evil. Tells her that he's only doing business with Mosley to supply info to the government on his organizations in return for defense contracts. Linda wakes up after having been shot. Arthur's there and he's crying, we can leave, we can be done with this and go back home. We've heard this song on dates before. Linda's like, you can stay here, I'm going to leave. And that's what happens. She's like, I'm literally done. Quite literally, I'm done. This scene is so... oh God. Ben, younger, goes to see Tommy at his, I don't know, one of the many offices he's got. There's children outside playing with a ball. Hang on, I'm not just bringing that up for no reason. Gives him the guarantee for the check that Mosley signed. It's evidence that Mosley is involved with Jimmy McCavern, who is a known felon. He's a gangster. They can have him tied to... Yes, he is using it against him. Told Mosley that it was for the gin distillery. It wasn't. He just had to make something up. And then Ben starts to talk about he's getting resistance from his side because he's a black man. Word of Mosley's speech is being reported in the big papers with all classes admiring him. That's worrisome. Who his source is on all this info on Mosley, so like the walls are starting to kind of close in a bit. Ben didn't give up Tommy. He didn't say who his source was. Thinking of moving his desk to a colored section, the poorly lit corner of the office, getting threats from Section D. Do you remember Section D? See season 3 for Section D. And Tommy says they're Section D now because they defeated them. They're not Section D, but you know what he means. His superiors are asking why anything on Jesse Eden has been drying up, like they're not getting any information from the Communist Party. And Tommy's like, yeah, well, I've shifted my focus. So Ben goes out to his car, right? Meeting's over. One kid kicks the ball. It hits the side of Ben's car. He looks up and looks at the kid. The kid smiles at him and he's like, thanks. The kid kicks the ball again, just as Ben is starting the car. The f***ing car blows up. Ben is dead. Where did that come from? The little boy kicking the ball, he died too. There's 2 other kids. They're fine. I mean, they got knocked off their feet. And then he goes and picks up the other little boy, and he died. Tommy goes and finds Ada, lets her know what happened. She says, you know, I didn't love him, but I really liked him. He's the father of her new baby. But she says, I never actually told him he was the father. Not that she never got to, but she just never did. I don't know when she planned on doing it. Like, at some point, you gotta tell the baby's gonna pop out mixed, and then what are you gonna say? Tommy says that his death will be marked as an IRA attack. Tommy says that it must have been Section D. Lets Ada know that there was a boy that died. It's all my fault. If he wasn't involved with Ben wouldn't have to come over to his place, and then the bomb wouldn't be planted, and the kid wouldn't have died. So it's like... Which, I mean, you're kind of right. I don't mean to rub it in. Opium to the Chinese at the docks. And they get there. Think that they're seeing somebody walk around, so they're like, oh, it must be the Chinese. It's not them. Shots start to be fired. And then Chang, we see, is hiding. And he says the men's shooting smelled like gin, and we're talking about opium on behalf of the king. And says that they were Irish. Arthur says they're Titanic boys. Goes out there with a machine gun. Don't with the Peaky Blinders. Then Mr. Gold says, come on, they've left. Mr. Chang takes him to go get the opium, and then Isaiah runs in there and says, Arthur, one of the guys you just shot was a copper. Tells him to, well, get his body and throw it in a kiln. Are we making pottery? What the f***, Arthur? Arthur says, we need to go back home and find out who gave up our location to the Titanic boys. Tommy goes to the local, I'll call it the mental health facility because the word asylum is frowned upon now, to talk to an old friend named Barney. He was a war buddy of theirs. Barney's in a solitary confinement wearing a straitjacket. He's very much like Danny Wisbank. Just still believes that he's in the war. Horrible PTSD. He can't function in normal life, and it's just better for him to be locked up there. And then Tommy gives him a little capsule of opium and cyanide, and he says it'll bring on a heart attack in case he wants to take it to K-word himself, because that's all he does is sit in a cell, a padded cell with a straitjacket on. I have this here if you want to take it when you're done. But Barney says no, and Tommy's like, I know why. Because you still think about that woman that we met over in France. Barney says it's because he doesn't want to die, because he still believes there's a chance that he might get out one day and go see the French waitress again. Oh, Tommy says that he could get him out for a job. He was the best sniper he knew, and he needs him to bing, as in an assassination. We'll get to it in just a second. On Wednesday, I'm gonna get you out. Barney's like, oh, I don't keep track of the days here. I don't even know what day it is. And Tommy's like, well, just listen for a big bang. This is just because I love this song. War Pigs by Black Sabbath starts playing.
Generals gathered in their masses.
Just like witches and black masses. Blow up a wall and they get Barney out. McCavern and Tommy are sitting waiting for the Peaky Blinders to return from Chinatown. And then Tommy brings up the attack of the Titanic boys. Gee, McCavern, know anything about that? And he says the most competent organizer of men for the southern region would have been Alfie. McCavern says, first of all, he's dead, and what's worse, he's Jewish. You motherfucker. Shut up! Mosley will most likely give the South to the Italians. Arthur pulls up. Curly moves 10 sacks of the opium to the McCaverns. He gives Tommy the check for 10,000 pounds. He goes away, and then the rest of the people... If I knock this charger out, I swear to God, this is like the 5th time I've had to plug it back in. Tommy says that Barney is going to assassinate Mosley. Oh my God. He's going to assassinate him at a rally while Tommy's on stage standing next to him. At the rally, Mr. Gold and Arthur can kill McCavern. Our season finale, episode 6. I'm going to tell you, people are going to die. A family meeting. This family meeting is... intense. The Lee family is watching Barney outside, tied to a lamppost while they have a family meeting. Michael cuts off Tommy and is like, let me tell you my proposition here. I just gotta read from my notes because I can't do this off the top of my head, off the top of the dome. Michael says the delivery of opium will bring in 2 million. I put 2 milli. He thinks that the company should be restructured. And Gina says Michael should get the majority of it. He's like the brains of this new operation. With Gina, he'll organize an expansion to America, and he's already spoken to someone about the idea. And Gina has family that are willing to help. We will talk about them in the next season, okay? Make 20 million. They've crunched the numbers. They thought this through. Do you know what, Michael? You're such a young blood. You don't know what you're talking about. And he gives Tommy the proposal and says that, and I'm going to be head director. I'm going to take your position, Tommy. And Tommy will be a chairman, and he'll be registered as a Mr. Jones. He was someone that died somewhere, sometime. It doesn't matter. Remember that name for the next season. And then he says the Americans don't want to deal, let me read it, and I quote, with an old-fashioned razor gang. Isaiah comes in and he's like, everybody get out here and help us, because Barney's gotten loose from the ropes and he's running around. Tommy is going to go out there and help, but before he does, throws Michael's proposal into the fireplace. You've betrayed me, Michael. He was a f***ing black cat. Says you've betrayed me and don't be here when I get back. You both are hate you. Tommy goes out there, calms Barney down, give him some opium and put him in the stables. They come back to another meeting. It's not a big family meeting. It's just here, this meeting. They're explaining what is going to happen at the rally. Barney's here to assassinate Mosley at the rally. After the killing, there will be an investigation. He's registered as criminally insane. They can just lock him back up. Say he broke out and had a war flashback, so nothing can be tied back to the Peaky Blinders. And he will most likely think that he just had a fun holiday. They won't kill him. I find that hard to believe. They'll just put him back in the asylum. Oh, excuse me, in the hospital. And then they say McCavern's going to be running security at this rally. Ding, ding, ding. Get him after the assassination. After, keyword, Charlie will get a boat full of opium, transport, and meet with the Chinese, who will have 250,000 pounds in cash.
Holy Mary, mother of God, good.
He's gonna take what Michael should have been finishing up. Here is the tea. Arthur and Tommy go to the Garrison. The bartender, who we don't really see much, been in a couple of scenes, but he's not been significant. His name is Mickey. He's like, oh I would have come in earlier if I knew you guys were here. I served you guys some drinks, but they're like, sit down. They know that he was the one who told the Titanic boys, or told somebody information that got to the Titanic boys about where they were going to be at in Chinatown. He also helped kill Ben with information about where Ben was going to be at so they could put a bomb in his car. Arthur and Tommy say they know through phone calls with a telephone exchange. Patty Rose was the man who planted the bomb in Ben's car, and he called Mickey just before the explosion, and Mickey was told to call if a black man of a certain description ever showed up in Small Heath. Tommy ends up shooting him in the damn head. You guys! Oh my God! I can literally gwittying across the screen right now because... Yes! He did not die! He's alive! Alfie. let me calm down, is alive, not well, but he's alive. He has been living at Margate. I'm gonna rearrange this so he will resume his rightful place in the center. Alfie comes out and he's like, hello Tommy, is that you? Just putting some cream on my scars where it hurts. Where Tommy shot him at in the cheek. He's horribly scarred, like a milky white eye. He's blind in one eye, which is like a callback to what he was saying in the last season, is that life is easier to deal with when you're dead.
Life is so much easier to deal with when you are dead.
And that he watches the ships all day passing by. He seems very content. He seems extremely happy. He asks Tommy how he knew he wasn't dead, and Tommy says he wrote to him like a week after he shot him, and he was like, right, well, yeah, they did have me on a lot of drugs. And then Tommy explains that he's gonna shoot Mosley. Alfie's been listening to the radio, and he knows what's up. He says that he needs Jewish men to help. Says that every man that helps him will get 20 pounds, and Alfie will get 5,000. But Alfie says, as a god, he is able to rise above those insults. I'm gonna pretend I didn't hear you say that, and I'm gonna expect 10,000 pounds. And then he also lets Tommy know about a reoccurring dream that he's been having of Tommy. He sees him in a field with a black horse, and he just says goodbye, and then a bang, and then that's it. What the does that mean? Tommy just mentions that he'll continue until he can find a man that he can't defeat. I'm gonna take this off because we know at least he's alive. Thank God. Whatever happens, I don't care as long as Alfie's okay. Polly tells Tommy she's at home, and he comes and sees her, and she says, there will be a war and one of you will die, but which one I cannot tell. Michael is gonna go ahead with his plan, and Tommy says that he will kill Aberama. Aberama. He'll kill Mr. Gold if he takes Michael's side. And then Polly gives him her resignation from the company. Oh no, Polly! Tommy goes out to talk to Charlie Strong. He asks how his mother died, Tommy's mother. And he's like, oh, you know how she died. She drowned. He's like, no, I want to know everything. He tried to stop her for 3 days. The Romanies made the nails for Jesus's cross. They're cursed and you have to move around or the guilt will catch you. Because Charlie told her, go off for a little bit, clear your head and come back. So she did. She came back with a white pony, and it was for Tommy. She was happy seeing Tommy with the horse, but then she was gone. And Charlie says he's never told anybody, but he loved her. Tommy's grandfather also went by suicide. He's like, it's probably just in the family. Ugh, oh gosh, Tommy, the wheels are turning in his head. Okay, now here's the big finale. Everyone comes to the rally. Jesse Eden is outside of the rally leading a protest. Barney's put in position by by Arthur. Tommy goes outside and gets Jesse Eden. He's like, you're gonna want to come in here with me. I need to tell you something. I'm getting so itchy. She needs to go home before the speeches start. It's gonna be crawling with police, and she's got a warrant out for her. I'll tell you, she doesn't leave, okay? McCavern goes to see Mosley before Mosley goes on stage, and he's letting him know that people protesting outside. There's talk of Jewish men coming, and Mosley says to the protesters, he's like, you know what, a little squabble's not that bad. And then, I don't know what the hand gesture's called. He pulled an Elon Musk. Mosley, he turns to McCavern, he says, perish Judah. And then he does the whole, Hitler, Elon Musk thing. That's what we'll call it, the Elon Musk move. Mosley takes the stage. He's doing the thing, the Elon Musk. Anyway, Mosley makes his whole speech. Who cares? You get the picture. The Jewish men that Tommy went and recruited come in. They start yucking it up. The crowd is going crazy. The signal for Barney was Tommy's gonna look at his watch. They count to 10, and then he'll take the shot. Take the shot, Mickey.
Then take the shot, Mickey. Goofy, take the shot.
He gives them the signal. They count to 10. Nothing happens. Why? Because up in the booth, someone comes up behind Barney. Yes! I'm not making it up. He died. Hang on. Barney's dead. So Tommy's on stage and he's just like... And then we also see Aberama Gold. He's backstage watching Mr. McCavern. Hi, Sweaties. Hey, I know. I'm editing. Okay, shut up. This is editing me here. I want to make a little insert. As I'm editing, I didn't realize I am giving you false information. On the board, you'll see me put an X over Jimmy McCavern's face, thinking he died. He does not die. Next season that I'm gonna cover, you'll see that Jimmy McCavern was moved to the graveyard. It was just because I wrote down the wrong notes. Mr. Gold was going behind Jimmy McCavern to kill him, but instead, the Billy Boys comes up behind Mr. Gold and stabs him, and Mr. Gold dies. So, I will have both of them covered up with an X, but just let it be known. Let it be known Jimmy McCavern is not dead. It's not that big of a deal for the next season. Jimmy McCavern does not even show up in the next season. So, it's almost like he's dead, but he's not. Alright, bye. He died! Aberama Gold died! He was killed too! Tommy and Arthur end up go back to the dressing room. This is where we really see him freaking the out. Arthur keeps saying, like, you're scaring me, Tommy. Tommy's like, who told? Nobody else would have known this plan. There's absolutely no way. Tommy tells him he may have found a man that he can't defeat. They get back to Tommy's house. Like, I think I just need to go for a walk. He starts to see Grace out in the field. He says that he can walk away now that the business is done. In the fog, you can see a black horse behind her. And this is where we get that iconic gif of Tommy walking with a gun to his head. That is the season finale, and we don't know if he K-words himself or not. We are going to get into very last season. You got one more. You can do it. I can do it. Motivating myself. I don't know if I'll do it tonight. I'll probably do it tomorrow. On my birthday, I'm going to sit so I can crack my back. I need to go catch up on the Oscars because I think Cillian Murphy is probably taking the stage right now as we speak. The dead, I'm going to move them over. Those that are still alive, we'll rearrange it a bit. Yes, I'll see you in a second. Okay, bestie? Love you. Happy birthday to me. Thank you. Thank you. March 3rd. Mark it down in your calendars for next year. It's okay. I forgive you for this time. My birthday, and this is how I'm going to spend it, is we're going to wrap up this series. We're finishing it up because I'm done. I'm finished. I can't do it anymore. Anyway, but enough about me. Oh, I did move people around. I went ahead and got rid of the Lee family card because I figure we know who they are by this point. Lily's moved up next to Finn because they get really close. I moved Churchill over here because our graveyard is getting quite full, almost at max capacity. Anyway, I'm not going to waste a lot of time. We're going to go ahead and get started with season 6, the final season of Peaky Blinders. So where we left off with the last season, Tommy was having a moment, running through the field with a gun to his head, screaming. Ah! It opens up with the same scene. He pulled the trigger. Nothing happened. The gun was empty, and Lizzie comes out. Arthur took your bullets out while you were driving back home. You're a fucking coward. You were gonna leave us all, not say goodbye or not say anything. She goes up to him and drops all the bullets down at him, and she's like, you can go if you want. Bye. Lizzie walks away, but he's talking to himself out loud, and he says that he's not able to pass through. He talks about that a lot this season, about not being able to pass. He thinks that the spirits are not letting him come through the other side to die, because that's what he wants to do, is just die. He gets a call from Laura McKee right here. She's like, I bet you're wondering what went wrong at the rally. It's the same lady that held Michael up on the ship when he came over. She says her and her men, the IRA, are the ones that prevented the assassination on Mosley. Outside, you'll see a white flag. Some of my men are dropping off the bodies that you've lost. There's 3 body bags that get dropped off. He sees that Aberamagold is out. Barney, he's gone too. And unfortunately, Polly is gone. And this is only because the actress that plays Polly, Helen McCrory, passed away before the season started. I think she had breast cancer. So unfortunately, Polly is gone. That is so I was like, how are they going to write this in? And I think they did it in the best way that they possibly could. And Laura says he no longer has Polly as his crutch. Although, you know, Polly gave her resignation in the last episode. She was about to dip anyway. They have Polly's funeral. Michael lights the carriage on fire. Here I go again. Oh, I almost shocked myself. And vows that no matter what, he will have revenge on Tommy. This season, Michael and Tommy are... It's a nail biter. We're moving into 4 years later, 1933, December 5th. That is my dad's birthday. Not in 1933. And Tommy is over in, I'm going to butcher this probably, McQuellen Island in Newfoundland, which is French territory. It's up near Canada. Michael looks like a villain from a Looney Tunes cartoon. He looks like the Scat Man. He and some Irishmen getting off of their boats. Tommy's already at this pub waiting to meet with Michael. Now, in the last 4 years since Polly died, our boy Tommy here has given up the drink. He is sober, giving him the cold shoulder because they're planning to lift prohibition by midnight that night. They've got some men in the pub that go up to Tommy and they're pissed off because they're like, well, we do the dirty work. Now that the prohibition's gone, we're going to be out of the job. And this is all your fault. The Shelby Company has men all over the island closing down the factories. For years, their boats took the booze from Newfoundland to Boston. That's how they made their money. He thinks that Tommy ordering a water is some kind of a joke. He pours a whiskey, and I didn't even spell whiskey right, wow. And he tells Tommy to make a toast to the people of McQuellen? Or Micklin? I think it's Micklin. Like a Michelob Ultra. Anyway, Tommy, he's like, no thank you. Gets out his gun, he fires a little shot off to the side. Since becoming sober, he's become much more calm. Throughout the whole season, we hear an overlay from Polly saying, there will be a war and one of you will die, but which one I cannot tell. Prophecy, if you want to call it that she gave Tommy when he said, if you're going to go with Michael, I'm gonna do what I have to do. That's kind of throughout the whole season, is she's like, somebody's gonna die. So they're having their meeting. Michael and his men get there. He says that him and Tommy have not spoken in the 4 years, that Tommy has not bothered to go after the IRA, like Laura McKee, the ones that killed Michael's mother. And then Tommy tells them that sometimes revenge takes time. Now they have new mutual business to work together on. Here we go again. There's always some business going on. Men on the island make their money from moving the whiskey. Now they don't have a job. Instead of them moving whiskey, I could have these men move a different type of cargo. Some opium, maybe. Tommy, just stop it, please. You know what? This is why I'm so ready to end this. I'm exhausted. Tommy, you wear me out. Because the island is technically French territory, so the Americans in Canada have no jurisdiction. One of the Irishmen that's with Michael says, well, we're going to have to run this by Uncle Jack. Uncle Jack is Gina Gray's uncle. You'll find out Jack Nelson is a scrub. More on him later, but Jesus. They pour him a whiskey. He's like, no, I'll just have water. They want him to drink his whiskey, but he's like, no, thank you. I'm pink sober. How do I feel this good sober? Anyway, before he leaves, he says, French police have heard through FBI that they believe that there's an informant in their organization in South Boston. Lizzie and Ada have all of the kids over, and they're having Christmas. They're having it a bit early because Lizzie says Charles and Ruby are going to have to go on a boat ride to go over to Canada to visit Tommy for Christmas. Arthur is supposed to be playing Father Christmas, but he is so high and drunk. This season is bad for Arthur. Ada finds him and says Polly wouldn't stand for this and he needs to get a grip. Get it together. We've had enough. Lizzie and the kids are planning to go over to Canada to be with Tommy. I'm going to take a break. Go to Canada to be with Tommy for Christmas break, or Christmas Day. I didn't mention. Okay, so back at the meeting, Tommy gives Michael a briefcase and he's like, here, you have this. And we don't really know why, but here. He goes to the Micklin police, calls to the detective about a boat that's about to leave. Heavy suspicion that there's somebody there carrying 5 pounds of opium. I believe his name is Michael Gray. And none for Gretchen Wiener's bye. It's in the briefcase. He gave him the briefcase. Michael gets arrested. And put in prison. He's in big boy prison. Also, this was tea. Did you remember in the last season I told you to remember the name Mr. Jones? Michael, when he brought up his proposition for the new age of the Shelby Company, he told Tommy that he could step down and be chairman, but under the name Mr. Jones. Tommy, when he made this police report, this call was made by a Mr. Jones. Carl, he is in Tommy's office. They hear the phone going off. Carl gets on my damn nerves. He's listening to too many kids at school. Anyway, more on that later. Ada comes in there. She answers the phone. It's a Chinese pub, and they're saying, you need to come get Arthur now, because he is acting a fool. So she goes there, finds him passed out. She opens up his shirt and writes his name, Arthur Shelby, across his chest. Don't you sell any more opium, because if you do, I'll be carving his name on your chest with a bayonet. Check thyself before thy wreck thyself, okay? So, Michael's in prison. I want to clarify something. Not clarify, but I just want to we're gonna have a lesson here, okay? I'm gonna teach you something. The prison that he's in is called, the proper way of saying it is Norfolk. I live in southeastern Virginia, and we have the naval base around here is in Norfolk, Virginia. The prison that Michael's at is in Boston, so this is just because the name popped up. We're having a lesson, sit down and take notes. The wrong pronunciation, Norfolk. No, it's not Norfolk. You can say Norfolk or Norfolk. I have a bit of a Tidewater accent sometimes. I pronounce it like Norfolk, and it makes me sound like an old man. Anyway, that is your lesson for the day. But anyway, back to the story. Michael is up in Norfolk prison. He's in Norfolk prison. Gina comes to visit him. He's actually got it kind of made. The cell he's in does not look all that bad. Gina says that her Uncle Jack has told her what Tommy has proposed, moving the opium to South Boston. Michael says that he thinks the informant that Tommy brought up was the one that got him locked up and tipped him off about the opium in his briefcase. Some of his business with Tommy is unfinished, and this is his way of finishing it. Okay, cut on that scene. Gina's back at her apartment, I guess, and she is welcoming the new age Art Deco, gold, straight lines, loud ass jazz music, loud. Everything about her is loud. Tommy goes to see her. She warns him that Jack is planning to buy import licenses. He's heading over to London. Import licenses to all Scotch and Irish distilleries. He says to Tommy's deal, no deal. Do you want to make a deal? No. Tommy just outright says, you know, I was the one that put Michael in jail. I'm the reason why he's sitting in the Norfolk prison. Called the police to give Jack a dilemma by putting him in jail. If Uncle Jack gets Michael out of prison, that's not going to look good. Jack Nelson is very high up with the president's bigwigs of the U.S. How is that going to play out if he gets a gangster? Well, someone like Michael with his history, how's that going to look in the Oval Office? Not well. Tommy says that if Jack doesn't want to work out a deal to move the opium. He's like, I guess I'll just have to go to the East Boston Jewish people. And then she says, do you want to start a war? They don't click. Jack is a part of the fascist party, and he is racist. He is a racist man, getting Jewish people involved. So this is where a major plot line is about to start. Lizzie calls up Tommy. Hey, I'm sorry, but we can't make it over to Canada for Christmas because Ruby is really sick. I think she has the flu. When she came down with the fever, she was just talking nonsense. And he's like, what did she say? I am going to butcher the hell out of this. It's Romany words, and Tickner Mora Obang. She kept repeating that over and over. And Tommy, when he hears that, shits his pants. He's like, you're kidding me. She keeps talking about this man in gray. Oh my god. Tommy's like, oh no. Tommy's like, okay, well, I'm coming home. And call up Johnny Dogs and get in touch with Esmeralda. I think it's one of Johnny Dogs' wife. One of 6. They say, don't let her go near the river. Don't let her go near some horses. Don't let her ride a horse. Don't let her do anything to get a black Madonna and put it around her neck. Honestly, Lizzie, I feel like she's in the same lane as Michael, where she doesn't really believe in all of the curses and anything like that. She's like, it's just a fever. She's just got the flu. She'll be all right. Michael, I feel like, is the same way when it came to Polly. So Tommy goes to see Michael at the prison just before he's about to leave to go back over to England. Jack is also heading that way too, so they'll be able to meet. He gives Michael a letter from the president's personal secretary saying to keep him in prison a little while longer, because remember, that wouldn't look so good. Mr. Jack Nelson got Michael out. Well, as Tommy's leaving, oh, Michael, actually, I forgot to tell you, I found out that your Uncle Jack has bought 5 tickets on the boat over to England. One for his wife, for his mistress, one for Roosevelt's son, himself, and Gina Gray. Michael, you were not even going. You were not even going to be there. And also your wife is going. Episode 1 is done. Tommy's back home. He runs into Ruby. She's looking fine and a lot better. He's like, I have a doctor's appointment already scheduled. We're going to take her just so we can double make sure that she's fine. Lizzie comes out there and says, doctors say she's all clear. She's fine. You didn't have to come back. And then she's asking when he last slept. I mentioned it a little bit. I haven't really honed in on it. Tommy doesn't sleep. Like at all. He used to have to take the opium to help him go to sleep, but even then he would have dreams of the war. Remember in like season 1? Of course, one of his favorite lines, I have one more piece of business and then I'll be done. I'm telling you, we've heard this song and dance before. In the middle of the night, Tommy has started to have some seizures. Lizzie wakes up and she finds Tommy in the bathroom on the floor, seizing. He's starting to see flashbacks of being in the war and being drowned, fighting with a soldier. Wakes up and she's like, has this happened before? Hang on. Has this happened before? It happened once on the boat over here, but I'm fine. No, I'm totally fine. She's telling him to go to a doctor, but he keeps saying, no, I'm too busy for doctors. I'm not doing that. No, I'm not doing it.
No, I'm not doing it.
And now I think about that Jessica Lange video where she's like, are you doing American Horror Story? Oh, Christ, no.
Oh, Christ, no.
Tommy goes to speak at the South Birmingham Labor Party rally. He comes out on the stage holding up a sign that says silence on it. He says this sign is an instruction from Westminster. Common man and woman should be quiet and keep heads down, but they're the ones keeping the country moving. I have to read from my notes because honestly, I kind of zoned out at this part. They will not be silent. He will take their cries back to the House of Commons. He's like, I'm here for the people. A vote for me is a vote for justice. When he's finishing up his speech, we see... That was so loud. I'm really sorry about that. Laura McKee out there. You have got some nerve, bitch. And she brings up shooting at the rally, the past rally, the failed assassination. She assumes that he would want revenge for the killing. Tommy says, well, business comes before vengeance. Tommy? He needs to get that tattooed on his ass. Business. Business. Busy ass. Shows letters written to and by Jack Nelson. One is from the president. Like I said, he is a big supporter of the fascist party. So he's come over to England to see the support of the fascism and will report back to the president. He wrote some pretty nasty things about Jewish people in these letters too. Alfie, we're not going to stand for this. He says she has friends fighting for a fascist Ireland and she's supporting them. All she needs to do is sit down and have a meeting with him and talk about the golden age to Jack so he can put a pin on Ireland. Oh my good lord, okay, here he is. So Tommy goes to see Alfie at a distillery. Alfie's men tell Tommy no smoking around Alfie. He's listening to an opera. And I used to think opera was just a bunch of fat singing. Now it just reminds me the cries of Italian men when my bayonet pierces through their skin. Whatever he says. Well, Tommy sits down and lights up a cigarette. He's like, oh, do not light that, mate. He says that he doesn't allow smoking so it'll help him see clearly. Alfie's uncle, Charles Solomon. There are too many Charles. We're in all narcotics, bootlegging, prostitution, and gambling in East Boston. He died. Shot by people Alfie knows, and he did nothing. Anyway, Alfie, kicks over a chair, and he's like, you know what? I'm writing an opera. My opera's called America. I'm almost done, but I need a big finale. And Tommy says, well, I can get you a big finale. And boy, does he. And he tells him about the 5 pounds of opium and wanting to ship it to Boston and shift power back to the Solomons over in Boston. Tommy says in the final act, Alfie will get revenge in the deal and Tommy will take half of his warehouses in Camden and turn them into houses. Every warehouse we see now, Tommy's wanting to change it all into housing units. Basically, they end their meeting with Alfie going like, well, how much is a ton? So it's him agreeing to it. Yeah, sure, I'll do it. I love you, King. Okay, unfortunately, we don't see Alfie for a bit. Scene with Gina going to see Michael, and he's like, what the Gina? She's leaving with Jack tomorrow. They're heading over to England. Michael just warns Gina, like, don't get close to Tommy. Stay away from him. Jack says that Tommy has to die, but Michael says, well, yes, but I'm going to be the one to kill him. Pause off. Jack says, yes, he can be the one to kill him, and he'll get the $5 million. Lizzie and Tommy go to this rally that Mosley's putting on. Tommy runs it by Lizzie that Mosley's wife died 6 months ago, and he'll be with his new mistress, Diana Mitford. This girly right here stresses me out. Mosley invited Arthur to show up. High as hell again. He is this whole season. He's drunk, he's high, and he's hooting and hollering. Tommy and Johnny Dogs, basically, they get him corralled. He knows he let Tommy down by getting high. Tommy says that he knows this is all his fault because Arthur was the one out of him, Polly, and Tommy that voted no against the opium trading. So he was like, if I had just listened to you, you wouldn't even be in this predicament. He tells Arthur that before he went to America that he wrote a letter to Linda saying, you're a Christian woman, correct? True or false? Do you believe in forgiveness? He wrote back to him and says, as a Christian woman, I do believe in forgiveness. Get clean for 2 weeks and I'll write a letter to Linda and let her know to come over here and help. So out at the real party, Diana comes down the stairs. She makes a big grand entrance for Mosley. They go up and speak to Tommy and Lizzie. Go into a room to speak business. Lizzie doesn't stay long. You know what? I don't care. I don't want to be here. Tommy tells him that Jack Nelson is in London and he shows him the letter and Diana agrees she would like for them to do business. And Mosley tells Tommy, you're gonna have to do something about Lizzie. She's not up to our standard. Okay, but that's a different tune you had when you were sleeping with her. We finally get to see Jack Nelson. Him and Tommy meet in a church. Jack says it was Catholics in America that made him the way he is, which is just angry. Says the first man that he ever killed was a priest. That's cool. Churchill is opposed to fascism, but Tommy can give Jack a copy of Churchill's strategies. He says, if there's no deal here, then I'm just going to go ahead and sell my opium to the Jewish people. How would you like that? How do you like them apples? Jack just says, I'm going to have to seriously think about it. Ruby has left some drawings on the table of like scribbles of a man with the green eyes, and then she finds her sitting at a fireplace just staring. Can't you hear the voices? And Lizzie's like, the are you talking about? So Lizzie gets the doctor to come over. She calls Tommy to come home. He's in the House of Commons. He's not answering because he was out talking. Ruby is coughing up blood. She says the voices are saying they're coming for her and Tommy. Okay. Tommy finally gets the message and he has another seizure. In this seizure, he sees a soldier covered in mud. He thinks that is attacking him. Flashbacks to being in the tunnels. He ends up waking up. He finally gets back home. The doctors have warned not to get too close to Ruby. Tommy makes a phone call and calls for Esme. Yes, she is coming back into the picture. That is the end of episode 2. Oh god, this episode sucks. And by sucks, I mean it's just really sad. So episode 3, they get Ruby to the hospital. Ruby has consumption. Tommy, he starts having fits and he's saying that he doesn't trust the doctors. All your science and your x-rays and your medicines, it's not going to work. This is not what y'all think it is. It's a curse. Somebody's coming after me and in turn coming after Ruby. Lizzie and Tommy, they both have to get x-rayed. Lizzie says that they found tuberculosis in one of her lungs and they're going to collapse her lung to hopefully see if it'll heal itself, I guess. If that doesn't work, then they're going to go and try gold. What? It's salt mixed with 37% gold. It says it can help, but it'll make her more sick at first. She doesn't hold a lot of hope in the fact that she's gonna be okay. Tommy, he's sitting with Ruby and he's just having a moment with her. Gets up to leave and he tells Lizzie, you can try your gold. I'm going to get my own method. Or tells Ada that she's gonna have to go to the meeting with these 3 down here in his place. Tommy gets out to woods in the mountains and he meets up with Esme. They end up going to a cemetery, but I'll pick that up in just a second. So at this meeting that Ada's gone to, Mosley comes in. He says he's annoyed that Tommy isn't here, but she's like, well, His kid's about to die. Jesus Christ. She says instead of canceling the meeting entirely, Tommy wanted somebody from the Shelby company to be there to meet with Jack and to offer them all an invitation to a dinner. The one that he invited, what's her face, Laura McKee to. I would be very particular with my choice of words because as of right now, the Shelby company holds all the cards. We could sell our opium to the Jewish people and cause rifts over there. And we're the ones that are bringing Jack Nelson to you guys. Mosley's over here. Watch yourself. Jack shows up with Gina. He starts to flirt with Ada a bit. It's kind of cringy. Jack also says, this is really rude of Tommy. He should be here by now. Ada's like, I did some digging on you, Jack. I saw that you had a brother and sister. You were kids. They both died of consumption. Well, that's currently what's going on with our family right now. Tommy has gone off to find an alternative option for a cure. Jack says that he would do the same thing too. So that invite is to a meeting at Tommy's house with like minds from Ireland, or McKee, the IRA. They can discuss the future of Europe. That sounds fun. After this meeting, Ada goes to Tommy's office. Tommy put in his diary a black star, January 29th, which I guess they're already in January, so we can go ahead and move this. It's 1934 now. I'm declaring, marked with a black star, and underneath of it, it says Hayden Stagg. We have not heard of a Hayden Stagg. You're not missing something. Hayden Stagg in Liverpool. And the black star, bop, bop, bop. That means somebody's gonna die. Ada writes up a letter and gives it to Isaiah and meet with a Hayden Stagg. Take Arthur with you. Arthur has been getting clean. I need you to take him and a bunch of other men. Go down to Liverpool and go see this Hayden Stagg. Isaiah's like, in this letter, am I gonna find a black star? And she says, no, I've changed it to just a beating. I don't know. I guess she's tired of all the death too. She tells Isaiah the reason why they're going there is because they have opium stored in the docks. The workers there at first were just kind of skimming some off the top. Well, now they've switched to buckets. They're taking way too much opium. And Mr. Hayden Stagg is letting it happen. So we need to go teach him a lesson. Lizzie has left the hospital just for a moment, go to the garrison to sit with Ada. The infection's in both lungs now, and they're going to go ahead and try the gold. Ada gives her a look like, oh shit. Because most people that have done gold treatments have died. Says she's being strong on her own without Tommy, but she's the one that's having to sit there and watch her daughter disappear. This is so sad. They say that he's out looking for Esme, so she's like, Ada, if there's any way you can get a message to him, and she's like, I have no idea how to reach them. Lizzie, she's just very frustrated with Tommy because he's, in her words, running around in the mountains instead of being here. So Isaiah, he recruited some of his cousins. They got Arthur. They went down to Liverpool, and they're gonna go see Hayden Stagg, this guy right here. I didn't really need to print off his picture. I just feel it in my bones. He might be here in the movie. Arthur tells Isaiah and his cousins, because they're kind of new to this, all right, if you're a Peaky Blinder, you look like how you do right now when we leave. We're not making a big mess here, so we need to go in, do our business, and leave. Arthur tells them that they're there on Black Star business. Hayden Stagg is like, is that a pub? That's something I would say. Arthur says, well, yeah. It is a pub. No, your pub too is called the Dolphin, because he knows that he goes to his local pub to sell the opium there. Punishment is a visit to the Black Star pub, but then he says his punishment has changed to just a beating due to Ada. You have her to thank. We're not here to kill you, but you're here to take your licks. Hayden Stagg tells Arthur that he's heard stories of him coming up the canal. His reputation precedes him. Stories about him traveled up the canal where he used to walk, but now he has to use a stick. It's like, look at yourself, dude. To hear stories like you were a legend. And now look at you. He came back from the war hooked on morphine, but now that he's sober, he's so much stronger. He tells Arthur, he says, I'm stronger than you will ever be. He's sorry for him because Arthur takes a beating every single day. Like, he is rehab counselor level. Jesus, wife, kids, and family couldn't help him. The whole time Isaiah's like, just say the word, Arthur, and we'll go ahead and rock his socks off. Isaiah ends up jumping in, punching Hayden in the face, and then Arthur tells him to stand down, and then they go ahead and leave. It's like a bit of like having somebody else tell them. I don't know, sometimes it's a broken record when you have the same people telling you the same thing over and over. So when you hear someone completely unknown to you tell you how it is, it's a reality check. All right, let me tell you what's going on. Esme and Tommy take a car ride up the mountain. They have to get out and get on some horses and keep going up the mountain at a cemetery. Esme says she wants to show Tommy a grave. And then she says, do you remember the sapphire? Like, how could he forget, Esme? That's the thing that could have possibly killed Grace. Are you kidding me? You gave it to a woman. Come back with me. Season 3, right after Grace died, he goes out to see some Romany women to ask if the curse is real on the sapphire from the Petrovnas. And he's like, can you just tell me that it's real so I can go ahead and get some sleep? But she says it is. That is who we're talking about, because he said you can keep it. The lady took the sapphire. She gives the sapphire to her sister, who then gives it to her daughter, 7 at the time. Esme says as soon as they put the sapphire around the little girl's neck, she immediately started coughing up blood, and she was dead by that night. So, the mother of the girl is the one that supposedly laid a curse on Tommy. She says, I wonder if she waited till Ruby was 7 so you would know how it feels. Are you kidding? This is where Tommy really starts to crack and he's like asking for whiskey. Esme, in all of this, Esme, this is not the time, but she says, you know, Tommy, me bringing you out here, I think I deserve some compensation. Tommy's not really paying attention. He says that he's gonna go find the mother of the little girl that died. He's gonna make amends and make everything right. Pay her to lift the curse. He'll pay anything. The little girl, her cross in the graveyard, he ends up ripping it up, throwing it across the field, and he's like, I'll pay to have her monument built. It'll be the biggest thing ever. So Esme, for her compensation, she says, I believe I deserve some gold. Says, if you can get me gold, I'll help you find the mother. Okay, Tommy goes back to the hospital. She's sitting in the waiting room. She hears Tommy's car pull up. She runs out there and she's like, where were you? She's dead. Little Ruby is dead. Like 5 minutes before you got here, she died. Are you fucking kidding me? Are you actually kidding me? She says in the last moment she was calling out for Tommy, and Tommy's just standing there in the rain like dumbfounded. Lizzie said, I gave her a kiss for you and told her goodbye for you. Yeah, so anyway, that's the end of episode 3. Ruby's dead. They're pulling a carriage for Ruby. This was so... I did cry watching this. They go to Charlie's yard, move her casket into a caravan. Everybody's lined up in the yard, and Tommy looks down the line and he sees Arthur, and he is barely hanging on to Jeremiah. Tommy pulls out a speech. He goes down to see Arthur, and he says, I wrote a speech, but I can't say the words. Can you say them for me? Arthur got high again. Like, this is the worst that I think I've seen him. He can't even hold himself up. I can't do it, brother. I'm so sorry. Tommy goes and he makes his speech, and he says, we're here today because this was her favorite place in the world, this yard. We could have bought her a golden carriage, but as we all know now, gold doesn't work, and that was the last lesson Ruby taught us. Charlie comes up to him and he says, who's gonna light the fire? Tommy asks Jeremiah to come up, and he says, you always made her laugh, so I think you should be the one. They light the carriage on fire. So Tommy goes out to the woods, and he's going to find the mother of that little girl, but he ends up shooting the whole village up, kills the mother, opens fire. Esme finds him. He gives her the gold dust, and she says, you lost one child, the Lord giveth, the Lord taketh away. And he's like, what the are you talking about? And she says, before you left for France, you slept with a woman and you got her pregnant. Well, now that boy is grown up. His name is Duke. Yes, Tommy has another son named Duke. Fully grown. I don't know if he ever tried. Obviously, he didn't try to look for him when he got back. I don't know if he just assumed that they died and moved, or he never thought about going to look for him or to find out what happened. He says that he's a thief, a pickpocketer, and that his mother is dead. And she says that she'll send Duke to Tommy for more gold. Esme, you are just... So Lizzie is at home grieving. She's upset. She got word that Tommy was out shooting up the woods, shot and killed a lady. They go back and forth and bicker. Their relationship gets so strained and tested in this season, like anybody's would, but I mean, they really are at odds with one another. She gets up and leaves and says that the doctors need to speak with him urgently. Why? Oh my god, that's another plot line. I want to see, and I can't wait to get to it. Arthur's down in the cellar and he's just lying on the floor. Tommy goes out there and he's like, what are you doing? And he says, I'm just waiting for this cup to fill up. It's like dripping, one drop at a time, full of wine. Apologizes for not being able to make the speech. You know, this junk, it just messes with your head. And Tommy's like, dude, I think you've been messed up since you were a kid. And it might have been my fault. We used to fight all the time. And maybe I hit you upside the head one too many times. Tommy asks Arthur if he can have the cup. Arthur's like, well, you don't drink anymore. Tommy gets the cup and he takes a sip. That's his first drink in 4 years. Can we blame him? He talks about the January. I mentioned it in the last season. It was their boat that they were born on. They lived with like 10 other people on. The one time where they were getting raided by the cops and everybody scattered and jumped into the river except for Arthur. Arthur was the only one that stayed on and was willing to shoot and fight at the cops. Tommy says, I knew in that moment that you always let me win the fights because you wanted to see me win. Arthur, you were so sweet. There's the dinner that's happening with Jack, Mosley, Diana, Laura, and Tommy. Jack is asking Laura to sing a Rebel IRA song, and she's like, I don't think that's very appropriate right now. This is a house of mourning. Well, then Diana starts telling a story about when she had a meeting just like this with people in Berlin all night long until the morning. They were sipping on coffee, eating breakfast. Soldiers brought in Jewish people and had them eat grass, and they sat and ate their breakfast and watched. And then Mosley's like, oh, Diana, you just killed the mood. Laura, why don't you go ahead and sing for us to liven it up a little bit? So she starts singing. You pick the saddest song. The Rebel song is being sung. There's multiple things that are happening. So with Ada, she had her baby, the one that she had with Ben Younger, little girl. Obviously she's mixed, and a brick is thrown through the window. Well, she looks out and she sees a Nazi flag behind a group of men, and on it has a note that says, no blacks as neighbors, get out, whore. Get out, whore. That's what I'm gonna say, and just in that cadence too. get out, whore. So she goes out there, and then they start squirming because she brings out a gun, starts shooting up in the sky, and then she's like, you got something to say? Ooh, I wish she would have just popped. At least shoot him in the leg or something, or like in the foot. Why not? Sorry, excuse me. She sees her son Carl is watching. Now, you remember why I said Carl is a head 13, 14 at this point, and he's like, that thing, as in his sister, that thing is gonna get us killed. He says kids at school have stopped talking to him because they say the black rubs off. He says once the fascists come up to power, they're going to send her off to Africa. Well, Ada, ooh, she serves. She gets an attitude and she's like, well, where are they going to send you, Carl? Your dad, Freddie Thorne, he was Jewish. On my side, you're half Romany. So what are you going to do? And you could tell, like, on his face, he's like, are you kidding? Say psych right now. Shuts him the hell up. And that's the last we see of Carl. It wouldn't shock me if he joins the fascist party. Would they let him in? Probably not. Arthur goes to the Chinese pub because they were told to not serve him any opium anymore. He starts threatening people, cracks some skulls, and he starts digging through their drawers. Like, I don't know why when I said that I was picturing like underwear. The whole stash of opium that they're trying to sell, but not to him. He takes it, he goes to get high. So what's going on in this meeting? Jack says that he has the president's ear, and Diana tells Jack to let him know that we are the mood England is in. Speak for your fucking self, Diana. Dirty Diana. And Jack asks if Tommy really believes in the cause, and Tommy's like, dude, my daughter died 4 days ago, and I'm here talking business with you. What more do you want? Mosley says, well, why don't you prove it? He does his little Elon Musk move, Paris Judah, and Tommy gets up and he does it too. He doesn't mean it, obviously. I don't know if I need to keep reminding you, but he's just doing it to play pretend. Mosley tells Jack that he can go back to the president and let him know that everybody's in agreement, and Jack lets Tommy know, yes, you have a deal. We can start moving your opium out of the South Boston docks. There's no need to talk to the Jewish people about this. Tommy, he's just staring at Ruby's wooden chair. He just gets up and leaves. He's like, all right, we're done, bye. Lizzie, in the morning, goes into his office, and Tommy is typing away. Hasn't slept, obviously, and that he needed to write down everything that happened and was said in the meeting so he doesn't forget it. He looks over at the fireplace in his office, and he's like, I burned her chair, and the paint left this smell in the air, but I didn't open a window because I kind of like the smell. It's just not good. Lizzie puts her hand on his shoulder and he's like, not now. I just need to finish this. Then we can maybe... Mosley and Gina are at the Midland Hotel. Midland Hotel is the one that Tommy has all the ladies working not the switchboards, but like the telephones. Mosley and Gina having sex. Yes. Tommy's out there watching, and he comes in as soon as Mosley leaves and sees Gina, and he's like, I saw him leave. I know what y'all were doing. Mosley keeps this flat for hooking up with people. He doesn't say hooking up, but I added that. Gina will be in Berlin with Mosley and will be in the same room when he meets the senior members for the German government. Tommy asks to get back to him what is discussed and what is decided. And he asks Gina, what are Michael's real intentions? And she says, to complete the deal, and then both of you can walk away. The deal is for him to kill you. I got one more character to add. He's staring me in the face. Tommy actually reads the letter that was sent to him from the doctors saying that they need to meet with him in person ASAP Rocky. Dr. Hallford, I've been trying to get in contact with you because your x-rays, well, yours popped up with something very concerning. At the base of Tommy's skull, there's tuberculoma, a tumor growing right at the brainstem. So it's inoperable. He says it's caused by the same bacteria as tuberculosis. The bacteria is easy to spread. It can be even spread with a kiss. Lizzie's clear. They said that Lizzie was fine. Have you been having seizures? Have you been seeing things? He's not contagious. The tumor grows. His health will deteriorate rapidly. Always need to have people around him at all times. How long do I have? It says maybe a year to 18 months. Lizzie comes in and she's like, oh, sorry. He says, no, this is my accountant. And he was just leaving. And then Lizzie's like, everything all right? And he says, yeah, it was just a bill I wasn't expecting that I need to pay. Tommy, you absolute shit. We got 2 more episodes left, people. I want to get to the last episode because that one is just chock full. Tommy goes to the Chinatown pub. He comes in there with a bomb in a briefcase. Go get me all of your opium that you have. He drops it on the table and he's like, there, fine. Tommy tells him that opium is not good to sell to the common people. It's not good for people's health. You can only sell booze and cigarettes, but no opium. When the wife, she keeps saying, I don't think this bomb is real. He's messing. He's not really gonna blow us up. They're watching through the window and Tommy drops it over the edge of the bridge. It explodes. It was real and Tommy was gonna blow them all sky high. And he pays a police officer, if I hear anybody on the street selling opium, let them know that there's not gonna be any more street. I'm gonna blow it all up. Family meeting at the garrison. Finn, hey, guess what? He got married. He got married to a woman named Mary. And then Tommy also introduces Duke and he says, hey, I have a son, full grown son. Lizzie's there and she's just like, because she just lost a kid, technically her only kid. I mean, she looks after Charles and takes him on as her own, but truthfully, she just lost her only child. And then you're just gonna bring him in and say, oh yeah, he's my son. Arthur and Duke are walking down the street. He says, my dad was the Duke of Saxton Shore. I don't know if he's talking about Tommy, like in his mind, if he thinks that's Tommy or not, but he can't read or write, but he can tell time. And Arthur's like, what the kind of use is that? And he says, it's more than you can do. What time is it? He's looking around for his pocket watch, and Duke is like, I have it. I can do that. Linda and Tommy meet at a church. He says, can you find it in your heart to forgive Arthur? And she says, no, but maybe God can. Do you think God is interested in them or interested in their money? I know that you're running a mission thing. I'm willing to fund £10,000 to you and your church if you'll stay and you'll help out Arthur. She says, yes, I'll do that, but I'm not going to sleep with him. He's like, I think that's going to take a lot more convincing than £10,000. At the Midland Hotel, Lizzie and Tommy go there to have sex because they can't have sex in their house anymore. Mentally, they just can't do it. Lizzie says she hates it there now and wish she could blow it up. Foreshadowing. Lizzie says, I found your little book of your regrets, Tommy, and I'm at the top of the list. Tommy says, yes, I do regret marrying you. Whoa, sorry, what? I regret marrying you because now I put you through all this shit and you've lost Ruby, the expense of being married to me. But he says in this moment right now that he loves her. She gets in his face and she's like, you never let me in even though I know the combination to the safe. I feel like this is just a ticking bomb and the timer's run out and we're just waiting for the explosion. Remember in last season, Billy Grade comes into the picture and he's helping fix football matches. A referee that is not agreeing to rig the match. He's also threatening to go to the police. So Duke and Arthur go to the betting hall. They bring in the referee. The ref is saying that he's gonna leave and go call and report to the police. Arthur's like, oh, we can do that right here. Call up Sergeant Moss's office and they're like, yeah, can we go ahead and report something real quick? Hand the phone to the ref and they're like, go ahead and say what you want. And then Arthur brings out a log and he says, but before you do, why don't you check this out? This is all of Sergeant Moss's bets that he's placed in the last 20 years with us. I don't know if it's 20 years. He's a frequent flyer over here. I don't think he's gonna be on your side. So Billy tells him, blow the whistle and fix the game. And the referee still says no. Isaiah holds the ref in like a full Nelson. Arthur gives Billy, he says, you've been sitting back far too long. It's time for you to get your hands dirty. He gives Billy some wires and Billy's having a hard time with it. He's crying. He ends up killing the referee. Well, later on, Billy's having a moment in like a locker room. Oh, who comes out? Jack Nelson. Oh my God. And he's got a wire of his own and he wraps it around Billy's penis. His penis. His wiener. Heard Billy's the informant in the Shelby organization and Jack needs Billy to give up Arthur's location. He can go kill him, and that he's already got associates that are gonna go after Tommy. And he says, only info on the murder of Arthur Shelby is gonna save you from an Italian death. First episode, when Danny Whizbang was gonna staged his murder, Tommy was like, you know, the Italians will cut your balls off and let you just drain out. Arthur and Linda meet up, they pray, it's whatever. Just so you know, they're in touch again. Charlie says that he found Duke trying to steal a car and he stole a stack of money from the betting hall. Tommy says, you can steal from whoever except here in the yard and within our family. He says that he wants to leave because he didn't like what he saw with Arthur at the betting hall killing that referee. Tommy says, do you want to know the truth about your past? Where he says that his dad was the Duke of Saxton Shore. Well, he got that from a watch that his mother used to carry around. Tommy breaks the news. I stole it from somebody else when I was a kid and I gave it to your mom. So there is no Duke of Saxton Shore around here. He said that his mom always wore it over his heart and they ended up burying the watch with her. Excuse me. He says that he likes the yard and he would rather stay there. I don't like people. Duke is gonna stay, and instead of working in the betting hall, he's working in the yard. Diana meets up with Tommy. He's on the January boat. He says that the Guinness Trust, which I haven't mentioned, but Diana comes from the Guinness family. The Guinness Trust gave permission on housing going up the canal and that they need funding, and he's trying to get her to give the funding. And then she says, my husband has had sex with your wife, so why don't we balance it out and you have sex with me? They have sex. Are you kidding me? They have sex. But afterwards, then she agrees. They're gonna have dinner with Jack Nelson. He brings up Tommy having to leave again and going over to Canada. And Lizzie's like, when were you gonna tell me? And she asks who he'll be with. And Jack says, oh, don't worry. Michael will be there. And then they hear a car pulling up. And who is it? These two. Hang on. These two right here. Go away. We were just on our way out of the country, but we thought we'd stop by. Wanted to make sure that everybody's on the same page. And this is where Diana opens her big fat mouth because Mosley's like, we're all getting what we want, and Diana says, I got what I wanted since the moment I laid eyes on it. And she's like looking at Tommy and Lizzie's looking at her like, And then she has the nerve to say, Lizzie, you are such a lucky woman. You're lucky to have Tommy every day. Something that I've only had once. You get out, whore. Lizzie gets up and leaves. And Mosley, he's like, Tommy, I told you if you wanted to be within this world, you need to button up Lizzie. She is not good. She doesn't deserve you. And Tommy's looking and he's like, you know what? You're absolutely right. She does not deserve me. She does not deserve this life. Michael's laying in prison. I don't know if it's a flashback. I was assuming it was a flashback, but it could have just been happening in his dream. But before Polly died, she gave a ritual to Michael where she like pricked his finger and it dropped in some water. And she says that phrase again, there will be a war and one of you will die. A man comes in there who works for Jack Nelson. Jack is prepared to get you out if you can answer one question. Michael says that he's consulted with his mother on this, and yes, he will kill Tommy Shelby. Oh my god, we are in the last episode, bestie. The last episode of this series. Season 6, episode 6. Let's go. This is probably the longest episode that they have, so buckle up. I don't know, every scene is so significant, so shut up, Hannah, get into it. Lizzie went into Ruby's room after the dinner and she's crying. The smoke is still on your clothes from your daughter's funeral, and you went ahead and had sex with somebody else, and not only someone else, but the enemy. Fascist, racist ass bitch. This is for Rachel, you racist ass bitch. She tells him he's cursed, never to be lifted, and she says she's packed up, ready to go. She is done. She is leaving. And I'm leaving. I'm packing my bags.
I am leaving, and you can't stop me. I'm packing my bags.
King Curtis. In the stables, Charles is out there. He says that he knows why Lizzie is leaving. And he's like, Mom, can I please go with you? You're not my mom, but you're more of my mom than Tommy is my dad. That must sting. Tommy gives him permission to go with Lizzie. He says, once I get all my business settled, I'll buy you two a house. And I don't think I'm really honing in. It's not an easy decision for Tommy, but he's like, you know what? It's probably for the best. Charlie and Duke are walking around the armory, and Charlie's asking if Duke has ever even shot a gun or killed anybody. He has. He said that he has killed a man. Refused to give his mother a bed at a hospital because she was Romany. Arthur is sitting in Tommy's office. It is very somber. Arthur found Tommy's x-rays. When were you gonna fucking tell me? And Tommy's like, I wasn't gonna tell anybody at all. He's got enough time to do what he needs to do, and then no one else needs to know. He says, it's kind of ironic, isn't it? After all the we've been through, this is what's gonna get me. When everybody's taken care of financially, he's gonna go off and be alone. When the time comes, he'll call him and tell him where his wagon is gonna be. Only Arthur, Charlie, and Curly will be able to know where he's at and come out there and burn the wagon. Then y'all can rake the ashes for silver and gold. Arthur, he's looking at John's portrait. He's crying because he's like, oh my god, John, and now you, I'm losing you both. Okay, so they're having a meeting. Tommy says he's going to Canada, collect payment for the shipment. Johnny Dogs is already on that way, and he has a job for everybody while he's gone. He says that he's leaving Arrowhead Estate and he needs the men that he can trust to go in and get his letters, jewelry, money, everything like that. And there's also bodies that are buried on the property that they need to dig up and move somewhere else, so the contractors aren't like, what the f is all this? Surprisingly, Isaiah is put in charge of all this. Finn looks offended. He's like, what the f? Why not me? Tommy tells him, I got a whole ton of wine in the cellar. Y'all can have it, divvy it amongst yourselves. Okay. Boston. Michael's back with Gina. The informant in Birmingham is Billy, because you remember Jack is going to cut his nuts off. The Shelby men will all be together on Sunday at the Arrowhead, and Arthur will be having dinner with Linda. I didn't mention that, but Arthur's not going to be there. Gina's like, can't we do a drive-by and get Arthur that way? That Arthur has to die too, because if Michael kills Tommy, then Arthur's just going to come after him. So someone in the IRA will do the assassination in exchange for guns. Jesus Christ, we've got a lot. House of Commons. Tommy is sitting in the bowl, if you will. I don't know what you'd even call it. Diana comes out there and sits with him. He says he's going to present his housing bill to Parliament, and she needs to make a list of her landowners in her family, and he'll offer them money from treasury bonds. Diana's told Tommy, do you want to have sex again? We can have sex right here on these benches. Mosley comes in. He heard the conversation. He was just standing over in the hallway. He gives him an invitation to their wedding in Berlin, getting married. Tommy's like, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm going to be in Canada. I can't go. After they're married, if Tommy even looks in Diana's direction, he will have him killed. Okay, now all of a sudden you care? Michael, Michael and the Irish gang that he's been with, putting a bomb into a briefcase that they plan to put in a car Tommy will get in. So that's how they're going to go about killing him. Bomb. They're not pies. They're bombs.
They're bombs.
The same place that we started this season at, that's where they're heading. Tommy is taking a plane. We're entering into a new wave of planes, trains, and automobiles now. Let me tell you what's going on with the Peaky Blinders over at the Arrowhead estate. Blinders have already been there. Billy and Finn show up. All of them keep looking at Billy and Finn and kind of giving them the side eye. They got the wine out of the cellar. Duke says, it's all in the kitchen. We all got to go over there. Everything's dark because they said the power's been turned off. And then Duke is in the kitchen, out of nowhere, grabs a machine gun, not shooting at anybody, just shooting. Finn and Billy are like, what the fuck? We can do whatever we want in this house now. And Finn just says, all right, enough of this. Let's get the bodies and we can celebrate afterwards. Duke, he kind of has a serve. He says, you got to wait for all the bodies to be buried to dig them up. Sorry. They get Billy. They tie him up to a chair. They know that Billy is the informant. God bless America. And they tell Finn, you don't shoot him. You're not a part of this family anymore. Finn is like, excuse me, you've been here for 5 minutes. Finn has the gun. Billy's like, okay, we'll shoot these now. Finn turns the gun to Isaiah. Now, at one point, Finn and Isaiah were like this, because they're about the same age. They grew up together. Pulls the trigger, nothing happens. Points it at Duke, again, nothing happens. So then they wrestle him, they take the gun back, and Duke is like, it's funny. Charlie, he said, empty out the first 2 bullets if you're letting Finn shoot the gun. Duke gets the gun back, and then he ends up shooting Billy. He tells Finn, you are no longer a part of this family. Who are you, sir? Arthur's last scene in the show. Let's give it up for him. Now, he was saying that he was going out to have dinner with Linda. No. He's at the garrison. He knows that the IRA is coming. But Laura McKee and like 5 other men show up. Charlie ends up taking the spot where Arthur was sitting at, and Arthur comes up from behind the bar, points a gun at Laura McKee's head. They go outside on the street. Shots are fired. Everybody kind of scatters and gets into hiding. Charlie ends up shooting one of them. Like the whole street that the garrison is on, the houses are taken down. A train was put up over top of it. So every like minute or two, there's a train that passes over and it puts out sparks. So that's the only light they have. I will tell you, this is tea. This is a serve. Jeremiah, who has been so calm, cool, and collected this entire series, he is sitting up top with a machine gun and he just peppers the whole street. He gets one. I'm not going to go into it. You know how I feel. You have so much room to hit more people. Peaky Blinders, they get out gas. They throw some canisters of gas out. They'll put their gas masks on. They're able to shoot the last man, and then Arthur goes up to Laura. She's over there choking. He puts the gas mask over her face. Her name was Elizabeth Gray. She was my Aunt Polly. Do you remember at the beginning of the season, she killed Polly like the IRA did? She says something about vengeance. She doesn't get to finish because Arthur shoots her. We are at the last little bit here, okay? This scene is major. It's gonna be a big moment for Michael, but also a big moment for Tommy. Michael, he ends up moving the bomb when it's time to put it in position. He's like, I want to do it. I want to handle it. There's 2 cars. He puts it in the trunk of the first car. The guy that he's with says something like, it's a shame you shouldn't just shoot him in the face. Michael says, Polly came to me and she said it wasn't going to be a bullet that was going to kill Tommy Shelby. Tommy gets there. Let's all load up in the cars. You can take us to where the opium was at. And Michael says, I'll ride with Tommy and everybody else can go get in the other car. Tommy's going to get in the car. Michael's like, oh shoot, I left my cigarettes inside. I'll be right back. We see Tommy wiping off a mark on the front of the car, sitting and waiting. Michael's at the bar and he just lights up another cigarette. Obviously he wasn't going to rush to get back out there. He was going to wait until it blew up. Well, Mr. Johnny Dogs came to the rescue because Johnny Dogs moved the bomb, the second car, while they were inside. Second car blows up with all the Irish gang members in there. Michael comes out and he expects to see Tommy dead. Well, Tommy gets out of the car, pointing his gun at him. He saw a ghost. He's like, are you kidding me? Johnny comes up and he's like, please tell me I did the right thing here. This isn't funny, but the way he said it was kind of funny to me. Johnny's like, I'm gonna go look at the fog. He just leaves. Michael says that he's the reason that Polly got killed and nobody can ever escape Tommy. Tommy says that Polly still visits him in his dreams, but not anymore. Whack! Oh my god, he did it! And he shoots him in the eye. Michael is dead. For real. Now look, I know I hated him, but I don't want anybody to die. But I am glad that that problem is done. Anyways, Tommy goes back inside and who comes out? I smell roasting Irishmen and tobacco. He can smell them cooking out in the car. And he says tobacco is forbidden around his presence other than his new wife, Edna. Why can't I be Edna? Steve Knight, if you're casting for the movie still, I can play the role of Edna, please. Now that the Irishmen are out, Alfie, He owns half of Boston. And then he goes out to the window and he's like, look, Tommy, he's ascending up to the heavens right in front of our eyes. I can see now with my eye. I have the eye of a dead man who can see through life. Michael will be forgiven, unlike Tommy. When they get to the pearly gates, they will be refused. Tommy, I can't remember how he phrased it exactly, but he's basically hinting that he's not going to be here for much longer. Alfie's like, well, man, I'm gonna put you in charge of half of my warehouses in Camden, so if you have something to say, you might want to tell me now so I can make arrangements. Alfie, one last singer, Alfie says if he's going to express profound emotion, he might want to do it with somebody who actually gives a Speaking from someone that's been dead for a long time, he recommends it for Tommy. Tommy tells him that his opera is now complete. He says, I got one more bang for you. Now, unfortunately, that is the last scene we see Alfie in. I would put all my bets on Alfie coming back. They have to have him back. If not, I swear I will be writing a lengthy letter to Steve Knight, the BBC, I don't care, Tom Hardy himself. So Tommy goes back to the Arrowhead estate just for a moment. He's leaving and he tells the boys, whenever you're ready, boys. He's walking like a badass, lighting a cigarette. The fucking mansion blows up. Goodbye, we're done. It's all over. It's all over now. In the woods, the Shelbys are having like a dinner. Tommy's like, yep, we're going back to basics. He says that he's going to be going away for a while. The whole dinner is him kind of not making amends, but his parting words with everybody. He says, Ada, out of everybody, you should have been the politician. And if there ever comes a time for you to run, you need to do it. He's asking where Arthur's at, but Linda says that Arthur is not good at goodbyes. Arthur said that wherever Tommy goes, he'll be there soon, as in Arthur will be there soon. And that's when Ada starts to get confused. She's like, how does Arthur know where you're going? He tells Charles to look after Lizzie and tell her that he's sorry. Well, Tommy's sorry, not Charles. Tommy getting choked up. There's only been 2 times in this show that Tommy got choked up, and that was when he was having Ruby's funeral and right now when he's talking to Charles. And then Ada keeps asking, exactly how long do you plan on being away for? He doesn't answer. He goes and gives Curly a hug. He whispers something in Duke's ear. We don't know. And he goes to leave and Ada's chasing after him. Where are you going? Why don't you just talk to me? He doesn't answer and he takes off. 1 month later, Tommy has been out by himself, living on the side of a mountain. He's got a horse and a wagon, and that's about it. He looks up at his gun hanging up and he flips a coin. The coin lands on heads, so he goes into his caravan. He takes off his rings, his watches, and puts it where his pictures are out of everybody. And he's gonna go. Just as he's about to pull the trigger, he hears Ruby laughing, and he looks over and sees Ruby running towards him. Did Polly send you to me, or am I already dead? Get this, bestie! She says, no, you're not dead, and you're not sick. Sorry? Go light the fire and get warm, and you'll see you're not sick. To light the fire, he pulls up a piece of paper from the fire, a piece of newspaper. It's from Mosley and Diana's wedding, and who is in the background of the picture? Dr. Halford. He's in cahoots! We find out he lied to Tommy. He was actually staying on the outskirts of Dr. Halford's estate. Dr. Halford's leaving the house one day and he tells his caretaker, did you go take care of that thing up on the mountain? And he says, well, I went up there and nobody was there. And so Dr. Halford is like, well, go back and burn it down. He's going to get in the car. Tommy comes up behind him, puts the gun up to his head. You've been my doctor for 3 years. I didn't know you were so well connected. And also, I didn't say it in the scene, Dr. Halford wanted Tommy to get a second opinion. Well, that second doctor you recommended to me, she was also a maid of honor at this wedding too. What is going on? They must have decided, as in the Mosleys, the only person that could kill Tommy Shelby is Tommy Shelby. Dr. Halford admits, he's like, you may not have tuberculoma, but you have a sickness. You have a sickness of guilt and a sickness of death. He takes the gun, points it to the side, shoots the ground next to him, which is honestly what I would have done. I want to see this man brought to justice. You need to hang him by his toes or something. Caretaker that he told to go up and burn the carriage, the guy did that. Tommy's up on the mountain. He sees the guy running away after he's lit his caravan on fire. He had all of Tommy's rings and his watches and his pictures of his kids and family members, but then he gets on his white horse, takes one last look at the caravan, he rides away. And that is the end, as of right now, of Peaky Blinders. That is it. I'm finished. I'm done. Sweaties, if you lasted this whole time, thank you. I know these are super long videos. My last video, I got quite a few people commenting that they always wanted to start the show, or they heard about it but never wanted to sit through it, or if they did start, they couldn't actually keep up with it. I hope this somewhat clears it up what's going on. Again, there's a movie coming out. It's going to be on Netflix, and when it does, we can watch it together. Oh my gosh, wouldn't that be so exciting? My birthday is coming to a close. Oh my god. I have other breakdown videos I'd like to do. I have an idea of my next one, but it truly is going to take a long periodically time. I don't want to tell you because in case I don't do it, then you can't say anything. But I've got plenty of things going on up in here, just in general. If you're new, if this is the first time you're seeing one of my videos, my channel, I don't have any rhyme or reason to it. I just post whatever the hell I want to post. Sometimes we do movie reactions. Sometimes I do like vlog type videos. Sometimes we do shit like this. Anyways, enough talking. I want to go sit down. Love you guys so much. Thanks for watching. And remember, by order of the Peaky Blinders. That was cringy and I'm not doing that ever again. Okay, sorry. Goodbye.